Hello? Okay. This will call to order the Historic Preservation Board meeting of September 17th, 2025. It's 5:03 p.m. Brittany, could we have a roll call, please?
Peter Dwyer,
Here.
Carol Perez,
Here.
John Miller,
Here.
Vlad Dumitrescu,
Here.
Richard Kasser,
Here.
Chris Cabezas,
Here.
Benjamin Baffer.
Here.
And I'm going to slightly move the order to allow for approval of an agenda before the election of officers. I think you might have a request to change something on the agenda as well. Right?
Yes. So we need to take item 9A and move that to 9C. We typically load the agenda with the more complex projects at the end, and that was my error. The applicant is aware.
So if someone could, move the agenda with the amendments.
Second.
All right, if we could have a roll call, Brittany, please.
Peter Dwyer,
Yes.
Chris Cabezas,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Vlad Dumitrescu,
Yes.
Carol Perez,
Yes.
Benjamin Baffer,
Yes.
John Miller.
Yes.
Okay, and so the next item is election of officers. That's why I'm starting this out today. How this will work is we're gonna have a chair, a vice chair, and a second vice chair. If you can just make a motion to make whoever chair, and then if you guys have, we'll just need a second, and then if you guys have any other thoughts, if you want to propose an amendment, you can do that, and then we'll go into the vote.
Kelly,
So,
can I ask you, who made the motion on the agenda?
John Miller.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to have Carol Perez as chair.
is there a second?
I'll second for discussion, sure.
For discussion.
Do you want to do it?
I thought you'd be good.
We still need to vote though.
Or you could amend the motion, amend it to nominate someone
I'll
else.
amend for John Miller.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I'll do it.
Okay. If we could have a vote, please, Brittany. Unless there's any other discussion. Okay.
Peter Dwyer,
Yes.
Chris Cabezas,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Vlad Dumitrescu,
Yes.
Carol Perez,
Yes.
Benjamin Baffer,
Yes.
John Miller.
Yeah.
Okay, and congratulations, John. And if we could have a nomination or a motion for the vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Chris Cabezas for vice chair.
I'm good with that.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, if we can have a vote, Brittany, please.
Peter Dwyer,
Yes.
Chris Cabezas,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Vlad Dumitrescu,
Yes.
Carol Perez,
Yes.
Benjamin Baffer,
Yes.
John Miller.
Yes.
And lastly, could we have a second vice chair, please?
Yeah, you good with that one? Okay. Make a motion to nominate Carol Perez for second vice chair.
I'll second.
And is there any discussion? Okay, if you could please call the roll, Brittany.
Peter Dwyer,
Yes.
Chris Cabezas,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Vlad Dumitrescu,
Yes.
Carol Perez,
Yes.
Benjamin Baffer,
Yes.
John Miller.
Yes.
Okay, well, congratulations, everybody. And I'm ceremoniously passing you the gavel, but it's right there.
Thank you.
You had a taste of power.
Chris, you're in the right spot, so good to go.
All right.
Move the name down. You escaped because I was playing.
Thank you. All right, we are at the point where we have minutes from May 7th, I believe, 2025. Is there anybody that wants to make a motion or a comment on the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a second?
Second?
Motion and a second?
Peter Dwyer,
Yes.
Chris Cabesis,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Vlad Dumitrescu,
Yes.
Carol Perez,
Yes.
Benjamin Baffer,
Yes.
John Miller.
Yes. Thank you. All right, now at this point, anybody who's a member of the public who may want to speak on any item here tonight, if you think you may, please stand up. It's time to be sworn in. If you don't think you're going to speak, but the feeling overcomes you later, you want to stand up now.
By the authority vested in me as the notary of the state of Florida, do you swear to affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay. All right, comments from the public. So if there's any member of the public who would like to comment on any item that is not on the agenda tonight, so anything related to the board or its operation or the city in general, seeing none, we are going to move on to presentations. Michelle?
We don't have presentations, but I just want to take a second to say congratulations to our new board chair, vice chair, and second vice chair, and welcome to our new board member, Benjamin Baffer, and Richard Kasser. Welcome to the board. My name is Michelle Hoyland. I'm the principal planner in charge of the Historic Preservation Division. And just for the public, so that you understand what the action was, the agenda moved so that the smaller requests moved up on the agenda, which means that 9B became 9A and 9C became 9B. So our first item on the agenda is for 19 South Swinton Avenue. You'll also notice that there are new file number formats for some of our requests because of our new digital software intake that we have. So the first item I'll enter into the record is HP 96-2025. Michelle Hewitt will present, but the applicant presents first. So if we could please have the applicant for 19 South Swinton come to the podium.
Before we get started, I'm going to read the quasi-judicial rules.
Yes, and I'll
And,
help the applicant.
okay.
Thank you.
So this is a quasi-judicial item. This hearing shall be conducted in accordance with the City of Delray Beach's quasi-judicial rules. The applicant and the city shall be permitted to present their case. The public shall be allowed to speak for 3 minutes each or for a maximum of 6 minutes if the person represents an organization or a group of people who are present but agree not to speak. The city commission, board members, staff, and the applicant may be allowed to cross-examine a witness. The city or the applicant will be allowed to offer rebuttal testimony. The decision to approve or deny an application or appeal may not legally be made upon the personal views as to whether a project is a good project or not, nor may a decision be based on the number of citizens who support or oppose a particular project. The law requires that all decisions must be made on the basis of whether the project meets the requirements of law, the comprehensive plan, and the land development regulations. So for item B, which is now A, can I ask the board if there's been any ex parte communications on this item?
No.
No.
None.
Okay, all yours.
All right. Good evening, board members. My name is Lee Cohen at 11 South Swinton Avenue. I'm here to speak on behalf of the owners of 19 South Swinton Avenue as a request for a material and color change for the roof. Here is the location of the property. It's about a half a block south of Atlantic on Swinton Ave, directly across the street from the Sunday Village project. As I mentioned, here for a request for a level 1 site plan application for material and color change for the roof. The current roof is asphalt shingle roof, and we would like to install a new mill finish standing seam metal roof. It is only for the material that's being changed. There is no modifications to the existing shape or the pitch of the roof. Here is a picture of the front of the property. A picture from the back. And a couple pictures of some nearby metal roofs. The picture on the left is 23 South Swinton, directly next door to our property. And then about a block to the south, there's a very similar looking structure that had a metal roof installed on it. In addition to the lengthy justification that was filled out with the application, just wanted to touch on what we believe a few of the high-level talking points are, but we think it is a respectful update to the property, with the only change in material and not the structure at all. We believe it's maintaining the historic character by not touching anything else with the project. We believe it's visually compatible, and driving through the Old School Square Historic District, we see this color roof chosen for many of the projects, and it improves the longevity. The existing roof is nearing the end of its useful life, and it's time to put a new roof on, and we've owned it for 10 years and plan to own it for a lot longer, so would appreciate your consideration for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can sit while staff presents, and then they'll call you up for any additional questions. Thank you.
For the record, Michelle Hewitt, planner, and again, this is agenda item 96-2025 for level 1 site plan and certificate of appropriateness application for 19 South Swinton Avenue. Here we have an aerial with the subject property outlined in red. To the west, it faces South Swinton Avenue. In the rear, there is an alley, and then it's on the sides, there are 2 properties. So going over some brief history, the subject property is located within the Old School Square Historic District. It is a 1-story minimal traditional structure constructed in 1940 as a single-family residence. The structure is of reinforced masonry and wood construction on a concrete foundation. In 1997, the Historic Preservation Board approved a certificate of appropriateness application for a conversion from the original residential structure or use to commercial, and in this particular instance, a hair salon, which was approved and completed. At its meeting of June 1st, 2005, a certificate of appropriateness was submitted for the installation of aluminum frame windows and door with impact-resistant glass. And then there were administrative approvals for the replacement of the existing asphalt roof shingles. So here is an image of the front or west elevation. This space is South Swinton Avenue, where you can see the existing asphalt shingle roof. This is another angle of the front or west elevation. This is the rear or east elevation. This faces the alley. Another angle here of the rear. And so here is the proposed material and color. As mentioned by the applicant and in the staff report, it is a standing seam metal roof, which you can see the profile there at the bottom, and it's proposed to be in the mill finish or natural metal color. Here we have a staff report excerpt specifically from the visual compatibility standards, where we discuss that the material has been utilized on a case-by-case basis, particularly in wood frame structures. As the existing or original structure utilized asphalt shingle, that would be the most compatible. However, the use of metal roofing could also be considered appropriate, such as aluminum shingles. The request is before the board to determine if the proposed standing seam mill finish roof would be appropriate for this particular minimal traditional style structure. Here are the highlighted standards that were utilized to analyze this request within the Secretary of the Interior standards. And within the visual compatibility standards, the relationship of materials, textures, and colors is utilized to analyze this request. Here are the certificate of appropriateness findings. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, public comment is closed. The applicant, do you have any rebuttal?
No.
None from staff.
Okay. All right. Get into board discussion. Anybody want to start? Comments, thoughts?
I'll start.
Sure.
I'm in agreement with the roof. I think it'll look very nice.
I have a question for the applicant. So in the photos, and it could just be the exposure of the photos, but what's the exterior color? Is it a bright yellow, more of a dull yellow?
I would say it's more of a dull yellow. We have discussed doing repainting the property, but we wanted to get the roof on first, and then we'll probably be coming back to do a paint job at a later time.
Okay. But in your ownership, you haven't painted the exterior?
It might have had a fresh coat when we first purchased it, so yeah, I think it's probably been some time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Anyone else? Ben?
Yeah, so I think the standing seam metal roof in a mill finish will look fine and be fine. I know that we have a lot of these in historic properties, but just for the board, it is changing the historic character of the building. I would say I support the metal roof, but we need to be aware that we are changing the historic character from one type to another.
Were the metal shingles ever considered?
They were not, only because we hadn't been aware of it or exposed to it. It was something that actually we recently learned about within the last few days, but didn't want to go back and change the application at this time.
Mm-hmm.
But is that like an example of one? Is it the house that was just recently redone right over here on Swinton?
I believe so.
Yeah, it looks nice on there, I will say.
Because that would keep more of the historic integrity by using that material. Though I don't have a problem if you really wanted to go with standing seam, because
Yeah.
the neighbor has it and it has been approved before. But that would keep the integrity of the look a little nicer. Would that be something you would be open to changing it to?
Yeah, if it's not gonna hold up the process, maybe if that could be like an administrative approval after, or if it's something that we can do. But yeah, it's something that I'd be happy to explore further with our vendor and see if that's something that they can do.
So may I?
Yes.
Because you asked about process. Had this come in with a change from typical shingle to metal shingle, we would have gone straight to permit with that. He wouldn't have had to come to the board. I'm sorry, we didn't have that conversation sooner. But the board could make that a condition if you wanted to, or just to say that your motion would change, to be a metal shingle roof. But that would be an appropriate material that we would have admin authority over.
Or whoever makes the motion could say a and/or situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, Pete, any thoughts?
I think that's a great idea. I'll make a motion that we go with this metal shingle, and that could be handled administratively.
So I think you might want to just do it as a motion to approve with the condition that it be metal shingle. Would that make most sense for you?
To pick one and make that motion with a condition.
Before you finish that, Vlad, did you have anything you want to say?
No.
Wait.
I think the applicant had a comment.
I mean, it has to be cost prohibitive. I mean, cost is a big factor with this as well. So I don't know the difference in cost, but like I said, it's something that we will explore and consider.
Okay.
I would say whoever does the motion, allow either the standing seam, since nobody seems to have an issue with that, or
Right.
the
Well, would we even need a motion? Would it even need to be noted if they could just go in administratively and go right to permit with metal shingles. So we could approve it, and then if they went in for metal shingles, we could approve standing seam, understanding that we don't have any jurisdiction over shingles, and then if they went in with shingles, they decided.
You have jurisdiction over shingles, and it's easier for staff if you make the motion with what the material is that you're approving rather than an either or situation, because at the end of the day, if it's an either or, the applicant could just do the metal standing seam. But if the board is open, to it being a standing seam roof, you could give that direction with still the action being the shingles. From our experience, the cost is not prohibitive, and you get the same life out of the roof, the extended warranty that you get with the standing seam metal. So for us, it would be easier if you made the decision with the motion, and because the applicant's here already, you might as well make the action in the motion, so it doesn't result in a no action.
But to be clear, if you guys only approve the metal shingle roof, he would not have approval for the standing seam metal roof.
And that's
If you
my
approve,
concern.
I agree with Mr. Kasser that if you approve the standing seam metal, then he could administratively get the shingles, right?
I would be, as an applicant, I would be hesitant to say yes to anything that I don't know what it's going to cost.
Right.
So that is my concern there. So, he's had to go through the process to get here for a standing seam. I would think we would want to go with that, and then if he changes his mind and decides to go with a dimensional tile or a metal tile, then he could approach staff and go on it from there. And as staff said, it doesn't need approval of this board at that point.
So if I may, is that okay? The standards in the code aren't designed to take into consideration the costs. The standards are designed to take into consideration what's most appropriate for the structure. The most appropriate material for the structure is what it originally had, which would be a shingle roof. They could do a 3-dimensional shingle. So I just want to make that note that cost should not be part of the board's consideration. And Kelly, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong there.
No, she's correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you were just saying that he didn't want to agree to it because of the cost. But I mean, you guys can make whatever decision you want.
I mean,
And-
my thought is we're kind of changing things up in the middle here, and if we're only going to approve something that hasn't been considered in the past, that's kind of not a fair situation to the applicant, I don't think.
And another option is, continue with direction, but that's,
I mean, we've approved lots and lots of standing seam metal roofs in the past.
Yeah, I think you
This
guys
is
should
not
make a
an unusual
determination whether you
situation.
think the standing seam metal is appropriate, and then make your motion accordingly.
What do you think you would do if we approved the standing seam? Would you really put the effort to look at the other option? And
Yeah, I would. I really would.
yeah, okay.
It was a conversation that I had before this meeting, but
You
it was
just learned
just
about it recently.
It's exactly. It wasn't something that we were aware of.
Somebody want to make a motion? Or actually, yours is still on the table, right?
Yeah.
You want to amend, or you want to continue with that?
I'd make a motion to approve. Like to make a motion to approve certificate of appropriateness HP 000096-2025 and level 1 site plan application for the property located at 19 South Swinton Avenue, located within Old School Square Historic District, by finding that the request and approval thereof is consistent with the comprehensive plan, meets the criteria set forth in the land development regulations.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Please take the roll.
Peter Dwyer,
Yes.
Chris Cabezas,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Vlad Dimitrescu,
Yes.
Carol Perez,
Yes.
Benjamin Baffer,
Yes.
John Miller.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item previously C, now B. Certificate of appropriateness for 321 Northwest First Avenue. Any ex parte communications on this item?
None.
Nope.
No.
For the record, again, Michelle Hewitt, and I'm reading to the record file number 30-2025 for 321 Northwest First Avenue, certificate of appropriateness within the Old School Square Historic District.
Good evening. Am I okay to go?
Yeah.
Okay,
good to go.
great. My name is Jason Bregman. I'm a resident and business owner in Delray Beach. My address is 227 Lake Terrace, is where I live. This property is actually the property of the estate of Michael Singer, and I'm one of the personal representatives of the estate. I worked with Mr. Singer for pretty much my whole design career, and he passed away last year. I'm honored to be his personal representative and taking care of this property, as well as his properties in Vermont and quite a collection of artwork. This application is specifically for a certificate of appropriateness for the replacement and installation of windows and doors on a non-contributing single-family structure. We might want to clarify some of the documentation might say it's contributing. I believe it's non-contributing. It's a ranch-style house from 1975. So who is Michael Singer? It kind of matters. Sometimes properties are kind of defined by who used them or who lived there. He's actually a pretty renowned artist. You may not know because we didn't advertise as a studio. He wasn't someone that would go out and do shows, but he was a pretty well-known artist. He actually had a one-person show at the Guggenheim in the 80s in New York City. And like I say, I had the honor of working with him for about 20 years on numerous projects, including projects abroad. He passed away last year, but he had a 50-year career of doing really beautiful environmental sculptures. And that post that you can see is that's from the New York Times. They did a really nice obituary on his work and his career. These are just some of his projects. You may have traveled through like Denver Airport and seen this amazing garden on the inside of the airport. That's his from 1993. This is a memorial garden in Germany, water cleansing gardens in the Netherlands, Queens Plaza, which I worked with him on for 10 years in New York City, which is the 4th business district of New York City. So he's a pretty well-known designer in that world of what we call like kind of regenerative design and a very specific type of environmental sculpture, if you will. Like I say, he didn't advertise much, but they did do a little piece on him. I dug it up. This is from Atlantic Avenue Magazine from 2012. So they did a little piece, and actually all the photography that day was from 321, which is just down the street here. It's First Avenue, so it's really the end of the street, City Hall Street. Let's see here. So this is the property. It was a quiet home-based art studio and office, kind of still is now, as it's being held by the estate. There's no noise. He just did some prints there as an office space. He did his prints in the garage. In Vermont, he would do them in a barn, and here he did them in a garage. There's no signage. Most people do not know we're there, and it's been that way since he purchased this property in 2008, I believe, maybe 2007. But he modified it when he bought it, and that was all approved through this board. Now the estate is gonna hold this, and it's gonna be gifted to his foundation. I'm also on his foundation, so if there's questions about the foundation, I can represent the foundation. Right now it's called the Burmill Foundation in honor of his mother and father, but we will be renaming it as the Michael Singer Foundation. The intent is to retain this property and not sell it. We've had a lot of offers from this property. It's big enough probably to build 2 luxury homes and fit them in there. Our goal is to retain this property as a foundation office, and also to eventually we might have certain type of thing going on there. There might be in the future an artist in residency or something like that. That's why we're hesitant to change it in any way. So it's still like a home-based office. Right now our plan is just to try to maintain what we have there and to secure it, critically to secure it for hurricane and security reasons. Just in terms of where it's located, it's really on the edge of the district. Across the street, the homes are not a part of the district, the Old School Square Historic District. We think the most notable historic feature is actually the mangoes. It's an old mango orchard that stretches this side of the block. And we have one of the neighbors here to speak to that about the mangoes and how the neighborhood's really worked hard to preserve those mango trees. And so it's been something we've done over the years, including trying to protect other properties nearby. The existing windows and sliders, there's a lot of sliding glass, as you can see in that image above. And then those are actually casements in the front. They're either anodized aluminum or they're gray. So we went out of our way to get anodized aluminum, even though everybody's trying to sell us bronze and white, as you might know. We went out of our way to pay extra to get the aluminum frames to match and for consistency. What we didn't realize is that you have a thing about the low E glass. So we figured we were just doing something that would protect the property, and we were not aware of a low E glass situation. Over the years, when Mr. Singer would be up in Vermont, and if there was going to be no one here for a period of time, this building got shuttered for all of the openings that weren't protected, weren't impact glass. So it looked like this. And if there's a storm coming up right now, this is what we're going to do. And we have to, pay to put the shutters up and take them down. Sometimes I end up doing it. And it doesn't look great for the community if they stay up for an extended period of time. And of course, it's something that we just want to fix properly by having proper hurricane windows, and the estate will pay for that, and the foundation has agreed. Why we want low E? On most of the facades, it's shaded. We have a ton of vegetation. Michael designed the gardens here, kept all the mango trees, and it's a beautiful set of gardens. But there's artwork inside. I don't want to get into the nature of the artwork and everything like that. There's a significant amount of artwork that's here. And we need to protect that artwork, and the light that's coming in is problematic for our use. Also, again, there might in the future be a new artwork created, which we would want to protect as well. All the other openings are perfectly well shaded. We went ahead and, when we did low E, of course, to keep it similar, we put the low E on this west-facing facade at the garage here, and also at the front door. So if you were approaching the property, you would see the glass would have that similar tint. This is just views of the garage and how it opens up. It's a screened garage. There's no cars going in and out or anything like that. Again, it's a lot about art handling is really critical. He was creating artwork in the space. In terms of history, our goal is to kind of retain the space as an art space. If you look closely, I don't know if it's in this image, but in some of the images you can actually see his print press in there. And the intent is to keep that. So it's an important part of its history. So we'd like to keep these things in place. We don't know exactly what's going to happen in the future, but right now our goal is to stabilize and keep everything in place and secure. This is what it looks like across the street. That's a city well. They keep digging up the site a bit because there's an issue with that well. I don't know, but they're out there often. Not a part of the historic district as far as I understand. Neighbors, great neighbors, that's Darlene and Kirk, and they're not a part of the district. This is the property to the south, which at one point in time Mr. Singer owned and helped make sure it stayed in the hands of someone who would build a low structure with keeping the mango trees. This is 313. And then to the north, Cason United Methodist, who we have a good relationship with, and they've just fenced that area though and put up clusia. So they're really not a part of the street. I wanted to show this video real fast, so it's a bit fast, but it just goes to show you how much vegetation there is. That's how much vegetation there is on this property. You can see that this is Northwest First. Michael planted it out with a ton of native vegetations, all native hedges in the front there, and the mango trees. And between that, you really can't see much of the property. What you could see if you approach it further is the garage and that one window, which again is one of the ones that we're requesting for low E. So I just want to be clear that, again, a lot of this is just simply not visible, and it's really nestled in a garden that he created, which is part of his work and the aesthetic that he was trying to create. So just to wrap up, the estate and foundation are seeking to retain and preserve the property. If at some point in time, we can't do what we need to be doing there, The foundation will probably, I've been fighting because I'm here in Florida and everybody else is up north, to keep this property. It'll get sold to the highest bidder and developed. So I'm doing everything I can to prevent that. And I think that's in line with your mission and goals. The old openings with shutters are being replaced for security, hurricane protection, energy efficiency, and aesthetics. These are all good reasons and go right along with what we're trying to do in this community, especially in terms of historic preservation and also honoring the use of the space historically that Mr. Singer was there working for the last so many years. And the low E for the western side, again, is due to the western exposure and the need to protect artwork. Staff has been great to work with. They came by, they looked at everything, they understood the unique nature of the property. We greatly appreciate your service and hopeful that you can improve this so that our foundation can remain in Delray Beach and continue to do some really interesting work in South Florida. Thank you so much. I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. We'll get back to you as soon as staff presents.
Thank you.
Okay. Once again, this is for 321 Northwest 1st Avenue, Certificate of Appropriateness. Here we have the subject property outlined in red with Northwest 1st Avenue to the west. Some brief history. The subject property is located within the Old School Square Historic District. It contains a non-contributing ranch-style single-family residence constructed in 1975, and it contained an asphalt shingle roof, stucco siding, and awning windows. The current single-family residence use is, this current property is also still classified as single-family. At its meeting of October 15, 2008, the Historic Preservation Board recommended approval for a COA and waiver request to allow the parking to be within the front setback, which exists today. The subject request is for the replacement of existing windows and doors, specifically for anodized aluminum frames, low E glass, and the replacement / installation of horizontal roller windows and doors. Going through some photos, here we have the front or west elevation. This faces Northwest 1st Avenue. And this is within the property, also the front or west elevation. We can see the front door on the left and the existing casement windows on the right. Here is from an angle here of the front or southwest elevation. We can see the garage door portion of that front door there as well. Here is an image from the side or north elevation. And then from the rear or east elevation, more kind of from the rear / side southeast elevation. Also from the southeast. And then here is the side / south elevation. So this is the layout of the existing windows. There's no new openings proposed for the windows. There is the existing single entry door is proposed to be double entry door, which I'll show you later. And they are proposed, on any of the existing awning windows are proposed to be horizontal rollers, all to be the anodized aluminum frames, and then the west windows to be, and front door to be low E glass. So here are some of the existing door frames. This is looking inside of the building outside. Some of the existing window frames. I think this faces Northwest 1st Avenue. These are the casement windows. So here is the existing front / west window. This is the only window that currently utilizes this current window pattern in appearance, but it also utilizes that anodized metal frame. So this is the proposed low E glass sample. You can kind of see the distinction between the back and the front there. And then here is the existing entryway on the left there, and this is proposed to go from a single entryway to a double entryway here with those glass panes on either side of the door. So here are some staff report excerpts, specifically from the Secretary of the Interior Standards. As mentioned before, this includes the replacement and new use of horizontal roller windows, which is typically considered a more modern / recent appearance and is not typically utilized in historic structures. It is important to note this is a non-contributing ranch style structure where these types of windows may have been utilized during the time frame. Going to the proposed low E glass, it is a modern application not utilized during the time frame of current historic structures. This particular type of glass is inconsistent in its color grading and appearance when installed, thus creating concern for its overall use within the historic districts, as like-in-kind replacements come through for consistency that may not be able to be achieved. The low E glass was brought before the board per direction from the board, where contributing structures are to use clear, no tint, unreflective, no low E glass, and that non-contributing structures may utilize gray colored windows to assist with meeting the energy requirements. Here is an image here, or a staff report excerpt for the vision compatibility standards. The elevation on the screen is the front, so you can see what was originally there in terms of the window pattern and appearance, and the proposed and the existing single entry door. There have been modifications, as you can see, from what was original and what's currently out there now. As mentioned before, the single entry door is going to a double entry door. They are to be full glass. Consideration could be given to other potential door types that aren't as modern in terms of the full glass appearance. So here is the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation with the subject standards highlighted in yellow that we used to analyze the report or request. And here is the vision compatibility standards that were utilized to analyze the request as well. Here are the certificate of appropriateness findings, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any rebuttal?
Just one minor comment. Thank you, Michelle.
So-
Could you go back?
Sorry, if we actually, we're going to go to public comment first, just in case you have anything to
sure.
say about public comment as well. So.
Oh, yeah. That's fine.
Just be a minute.
Absolutely, yeah.
Any members of the public want to comment on this item? Just come state your name and address for the record, please.
I think I need to be sworn in.
Do you as well?
Jim.
You were sworn in? Okay.
By the authority vested in me as the notary of the state of Florida, do you swear to affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Well, John, I'm sorry to hear about your election as a chair. I know it's a big burden, but you can handle it.
Got big shoes to fill.
My name is Jim Chard. I live at 401 Southeast 4th Avenue in Delray Beach, and I'm here to support my good friend Jason Bregman and his mentor, who I was honored to know quite well, Michael Singer. Many of you probably have not heard the name Michael Singer before tonight, but I think, as you could see from what the New York Times had to say about him, he is a very famous person in the design, environmental, art, and also the aquatic world, which Jason didn't mention. And I think that his home is going to be very much like the Fontaine Fox home in the sense that it's historic because of who built it or who lived in it. And we all know the importance of that building. The real reason I believe for what Jason is trying to do is securing the art. It's very valuable art. It is something that is very valuable to Delray. 50 years from now, it'll be even more important. I think also you saw from the view, it contributes substantially to the tree canopy on North Swinton, and is a very, very special place. If you haven't visited it, I highly recommend it. So I am strongly in support of this, and I hope all of you are as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Annette Ann Child. I live at 300 North Swinton Avenue in Delray Beach, and my property is around the corner from this property. I actually identified the property to Michael, who's a dear friend for many years. He's very famous, though we don't all know his name. If you look at michaelsinger.net, it's quite something. And what he did was something with this property that we both live on, which is a mango field, mango lot that's been there for forever. And I've really fought to preserve myself having a continuous lot with his. So anything they do, they're going to do the best thing for the environment, the best thing for the town, and certainly the best thing to protect the artwork. I don't know if you've seen the sun or felt the sun the way most of us have recently, but it's so hot and the sun is so strong, and that little house really heats up, so that's why it's so necessary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Miss, what was your name?
Annette Anchild.
Anybody else? Okay, hope George is okay. We're going to close public comment. And now, any rebuttal?
Yeah, it's not quite a rebuttal. It's actually just something I forgot, and also something you presented, Michelle. Thank you. If you could go back to the west facade, has the one window with the muttons on it, and I just wanted to point out that is indeed the only opening that has that. And as Michelle showed on the historic drawing, if you could go to that too. I don't know where that came from. There's what it's supposed to look like. So I just want to make sure that you were seeing the same thing that we're trying to show, which is that everything else was those awning windows. Of course, they don't make those anymore for hurricane rating. Actually, if they did, I would choose that by any day. They only make the big panel ones, which are awful. And so I don't know that they would meet your approval, and they're problematic. So if we had that option, we'd absolutely take it, to do multi-pane awning windows like that. So because we don't have that option, that's why we've gone in the direction that we have in terms of the type of the window functionality. The building does open up beautifully in the cooler months, and is completely passive, and that's part of why Mr. Singer designed it the way it did. So about 5 or 6 months out of the year, we use absolutely no air conditioning. That might have to change a little bit because of the artwork, but that's how we always used to do it previously. So again, thank you.
Thank you. Staff, any comment, rebuttal?
I do. Do you? Okay. So I just want to say thank you to the applicant for their presentation, and just more so as this is somewhat rebuttal, but a point of process. The home is just that, it's a home. It has approval for a single family residence. We have had, staff has had a discussion with Mr. Bregman about that use, which means the home is to be occupied by somebody living there. And I heard some of the testimony tonight talking about that they're figuring out what they're going to do with this property, which we fully understand and respect. But should it tip over to purely being office, art studio, or even storage of art without anybody residing in the home, it technically needs to be converted for commercial use. So I'm just putting that here on the record, so that we're all clear. But the applicant has indicated that it's a home where also happens to be a place where Mr. Singer did some work and had space to be creative. So the primary use has always been a home. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move into board discussion at this point. Anybody want to start? Yes.
I had a question for the applicant. So I'm looking at you included with your application that your order from South Florida Windows and Doors with ES Windows. So you are ordering windows that are clear glass with low E coating. Did you consider like a Solar Band 70 or tinting or something to give you the performance that you could get from low E?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I was not aware that low E was actually a concern for any structure, but non-contributing. It just wasn't anything. I do look at the LDRs because I've served on SPRAB before over the years, and so I'm familiar with it. But I know that you of course have complete authority over anything affecting aesthetics, but it didn't even cross my mind that the low E tint would have been an issue on this property. So if that could be me overlooking that. So the short answer is no.
Okay.
As a result.
So the low E is an issue because there's a reflective quality, right? So we get clear glass. So this is always a problem with historic restoration work. And so, I mean, for those of you who don't know what I do on a day job, I'm usually on this side pleading my case with the Historic Preservation Board about why I need to use higher performing windows than clear glass and no coating. And low E, the reason why it's problematic is it gives a reflectivity that's not consistent with historic architecture. And the problem is clear glass with no coating is inconsistent with the Florida Energy Code. So I'm usually making this argument not on behalf of the artwork that's in the building, but because the energy code, the energy model doesn't work because the glass doesn't perform. And what I'm saying to the board is, I think when we run into these things, and we will over and over again, we have to come up with some type of acceptable
We did.
compromise to make it to where we can, like we did with NOAs, right, when we had to go with impact glass.
If I can address
please.
that, it might have been the time you've been off the board, because I know this topic was coming up quite a bit when you were serving on your previous terms.
Right.
So we had this over and over, and applicants coming to the board and showing the different types of glass and the color, and we've had meetings with window manufacturers and window contractors, and what resulted from that is we learned that every manufacturer manufactures the green that comes in the low E a little different, and depends on what country it was made. I remember you talking about this before. So the direction from the board, because we asked as staff, please give us the pointed direction so we can move permits administratively, is non-contributors, as this structure is, can use the gray colored glass, which meets the requirements for the energy calculations, because a non-contributor has to meet the Florida Building Code energy calculations. So gray is permitted. This was the board's direction. Not low E. The board said they do not want low E for non-contributors. Absolutely not permitted for contributors. Contributors don't have to meet low E. The energy calcs.
A contributor can get a waiver on the energy.
They don't even need a waiver. They just automatically don't have to meet those energy calculations. And for those who may not be aware, the energy calculations are prescriptive in that they are not just for windows. So when that is applied, it's looked at for air conditioning, floor covering, windows, number of different things. So you can exceed maybe your energy performance standards on an AC that might let you do something a little different on a floor covering or a window. So it's not just windows, it's a holistic look. But the direction, sorry this is a long answer, but I wanted Mr. Castor also to hear the background, from the board was gray for non-contributors, clear for contributors.
That answers my question. I was thinking if gray may give you what you need for the protection of the artwork instead of low E, and I know this is a non-contributor, but I'm seeing that it was built in 1975. So at some point it's 50 years old now, right? So at some point I think this is a mid-century contributing structure in my mind, even though by definition it's still non-contributor, but that was my question.
Meaning that at a future historic resource survey, it could be designated a contributor, and changes that are made now shouldn't have a negative effect on that potential classification.
If we can say that, but yes.
We can say that. I mean, I'm sure Kelly would say it can't be the consideration by the board what's going to happen in the future, because it's not happening now, right? But that is how the process works, and sometimes when we're looking at properties, we will say, like, we're getting close to that time frame, but you can't tell an applicant, like, if they wanted to tear it down, that they couldn't tear this down right now, because technically they could come through for that application due process.
You can't treat this property like a contributor because you believe that it's going to be a contributor, but you can, as the board, you can think about that you are protecting the history of historic properties and, you know, apply the land development regulations and the design guidelines as appropriate.
I guess
because of that.
for the board, my point is, I want to do everything we can to let the applicant, you know, achieve his goals, but in a way that, you know, is consistent with what we want to do.
Should we ask the applicant if
Yeah.
he's willing to change this?
One of my concerns was, I'm assuming from the language that these have been ordered, they've
They
been
have.
received, they're waiting to be installed.
They're sitting in a warehouse.
Okay.
Yeah, and I apologize for that. Again, I did look at it. It's, you know, I was not aware that low E would have been an issue, and specifically because of the energy calcs in general, it would be a requirement, especially on a west facade like that. It's getting blasted. I mean, it's just bad. But they are in a warehouse. They are complete.
Okay.
Sorry.
But we're gonna let the rest of the board speak.
We're talking about 3 openings, right?
Two. It was double door, so I guess you could
Yeah,
call
3
it
openings.
Yeah, but a
These
double
could be
door.
reglazed in the field. So you could install these and the glass could be changed. No different than if you had a hurricane event where you had broken glass, they would be able to change it, or vandalism, or just random breakage. So that is an alternative. And I'm familiar with the S windows. So these are coming from Columbia, but they make their own glass. So they could have glass for you in probably 5 weeks. So that's just from my basic knowledge.
So
That's an alternative.
your
I mean,
comment is
my comment is that something you would consider going ahead and changing to gray glass on those 3 openings?
I mean, yeah, I'm at and the board here decides what happens ultimately. Those windows exist. My only other option is to not install them and keep shuttering those areas and not use those spaces for anything close to the artwork. I mean, I'm limited in what I can do. Reglazing them, you know, as a personal representative, I have a fiduciary responsibility to both the estate and the foundation. So I was told by the contractors, we're replacing one of the sliders that's there now because of a heat stress crack, which they told me that, I got quotes on it, that they told me that it was more expensive to redo the glass than to replace the slider. And multiple contractors told me that, so they quoted the slider. So in this case, basically, I would imagine someone's going to tell me the same thing. I mean, I'm sure they can be reglazed on site. It's just, I imagine that they're going to come back and say the exact same thing, which is, I'll just get you a new window because I don't want to spend time reglazing. They're sizable openings.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's probably, it's maybe under $10,000, but it's definitely over $5,000. It's probably somewhere around $8,000 change. So I can't readily, and meet my fiduciary responsibility, I can't readily say that I'm in favor of that.
So you've looked into the change?
Yeah, I've discussed with the current contractor. He just said they're done. Sorry, we're not.
Okay.
You know, but and if they were going to change them, I'd assume they'd change them in the factory rather than install them and then
That would
change
give
them.
you a better product. But
Yeah, I would think, but you know, like they said, the factory's in Columbia for that one. So
the sliders, the ones that are being replaced, those are just clear glass.
So the slider, that's the one that's being replaced. Yes, the ones that are being replaced in the back are completely shaded. And you got these massive mango trees, tons of philodendrons. You know, they're lovely, and they're to my knowledge they're clear. The contractors had different opinions on what was up with the glass. So some of them said that they felt there was a coating on it. Some of them said that they didn't. I am not an expert on low E glass, so I'm not going to claim to know. But
Right. But it doesn't seem like that's
they
the
seem
issue
clear.
here.
Yeah, and we haven't noticed anything with reflectivity.
All right, so just could we put up the illustration there, the elevation that shows the 2 windows we're talking about? Yeah. So that's,
This is on the front of the garage, correct?
Yes, that
Yeah.
is on the facing west. That's probably the most visible opening. Even the front door is not visible because of that hedge that's there. That's really the visible window in question. And that's the door if you were to enter the property.
So
And
the
then
windows to the right of the door, those are sliders,
Those are actually casements.
and they're staying put. Nothing's
Yeah,
changing.
correct. They were put in when Mr. Singer modified the space. They were originally approved as casements, and
Okay. So it's just the
they-
front door, which is going to go to a double door, and then the garage window.
and a ton of other windows going around the building. Yeah,
Can you go to the site?
which are my understanding is not in question per se.
That's the one. That's what
yeah.
I'm curious about. Just
Yes.
which ones are we talking about in
It's
here in terms
all
of
of
low
these
E?
that are indicated here.
So yeah, the ones that say remains. Yeah, this is the highlight you said.
So the west, the garage opening, the west on the garage, the sliders near the pink area. But the you can see on the right, there's a new slider there.
Yeah, that's the one that's cracked.
Yep.
There.
And number 3 is going to
This
change.
remains here.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to actually say what's remaining. Those casement windows in the front are remaining. This slider is remaining. This one here in the corner. This one's fine, but except for the crack. So we were told by the contractors, pretty much all of them, that it's cheaper to actually replace the slider than to.
It's really where the
replace.
numbers are. So
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Yeah.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
This is a
and
3-panel. That
1
stays.
and 2. So there's
That's it. So there's
12,
the slider here remains.
13.
This slider remains. These casements remain, and the garage door, which is actually it's a hurricane-rated garage door with a screen on the front of it, so that he could
right,
look
but
out
they're
the-
asking which ones are being replaced.
everything
So
but those.
it's all the ones with the numbers in the circles.
Okay. So
But
that's
with low E, it's only
3 openings.
it's 13, 2, and what's
Just
the,
13 and 2.
just 13 and 2.
that's what
And
I was.
that's what
Those are
we're
the ones
concerned
facing
about,
west,
is
yeah.
The low E ones.
Yeah.
The
So
rest are administratively approved.
And the others are administratively approved, yes.
Okay.
I don't know if the approach from the interior could be, blinds or shades
Chris,
or
any
something like
comments?
that.
It's a non-contributing structure. It's completely surrounded with vegetation. Of course, it's preferred to not have the low E, and we try not to approve that in the historic district. So I'm a little bit, I don't know quite yet where I'm falling on this one. It's only 2 windows, or what, 1 window and 1 door to replace. If it was everything, then I would be, then it would be such a financial burden. But it's only the two areas. So I think I still want to hear other board members talk about this before I make a decision. I just want to say that I did know I knew of Michael Singer when I was a student at FIU, getting my master's of landscape architecture. He actually came and spoke as a keynote speaker. So he presented a lot of his projects, and it was inspiring as a student. So I really
you.
respect him, and it's sad to see he passed.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Is there a photo of we've seen the front door that faces west, but is there a photo of window number 13 or where it is on the
That one.
so that's window 13, and that's the garage window. Okay. The reason for just reiterating, and just to confirm, the reason for wanting the low E at this window is because the garage was used as a studio and also an art storage space.
Correct.
And then what would be the reasoning for utilizing the low E at the front door number 2?
You might see it in one of the interior images, I think, in my presentation, but the interior space is, a lot of it's open, and there's quite a bit of artwork that's within that space. And so we do get quite a bit of light and heat coming in through that. Again, the west is just so strong, and that's not where we have the trees. So yeah, you can kind of see there a bit. There's some open space area where not only do we have current art, but also there may very likely artwork moving, through the space over time.
And was there a slide that had a comparison of a low E window versus a non-low E window? There is a tint to it, but it's not like a limo tint on a car.
Yeah.
Low E tends to be green. So the glass on the part of the issue is the reflectivity. There are some that come with a mirror finish almost, or iridescent reflectivity. You'll notice it now that I've said it when you're driving around town. But there are also some that are just green, which it's hard to see in a photograph. We've tried to communicate it in a photograph, which is why we had, that showed the board a bunch of glass once before. The part of the issue with the low E is there's different colors of low E. Mm-hmm. So, in a year from now, window has to be replaced, and maybe he doesn't use the same manufacturer, they're not around, and someone else does a different replacement, maybe side-by-side windows. The greens don't always match. Yeah. So it's a complex issue more than the, fact that it's green. But I also, if I could make one comment, would that be okay?
Yes.
It's up to the board.
Okay.
Yes.
There are instances where we see front doors have some different type of theme to them. Maybe it's a reeded glass or a wavy glass or a stained glass. So perhaps that could be something. It sounds like the board is kind of wavering on what to do. Perhaps it's the front door that's allowed to be the more artistic green look, and the other window would match the gray windows that already exist on the structure.
I had a question. So the illustration that was up there showing the rendering of the front door, it looked like it was a frosted door. It didn't look anything. I mean, is that just blinds behind it, or what was the concept here? Because I don't know too many front doors that are completely clear.
Yeah, they are frosted indeed.
They are frosted?
For security, yeah.
That's okay.
As part of the proposal or as existing?
No, the existing looks nothing like that.
Okay.
That's the existing.
Yeah, I don't think we understood that they were frosted. We thought they were just low E.
It's in the South Florida Windows and Doors application.
It's on this quote. It says frosted doors on the front entry.
Again,
Which to me, that kind of makes the whole thing moot on the front. So we're only talking really about the garage window, number 13, which I've never seen a louvered window or a pull-out window with buttons on it like that. Yeah.
But that's not the same photo that we see at the entrance. This has vertical mountains as well.
Yeah, that's.
So I don't know. I just want to understand.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the 13? Was the photo from the street that you can see the window?
That's it.
Oh, it is the same. So
Yeah.
my bad eyes. Okay. I didn't realize.
Carol, any comments?
I think just to stay consistent with what could get permitted and then be appropriate for Delray in this historic district, you should go with the gray. I mean, I think we've already established that in previous meetings.
So we're really only talking about the one window now. We're not talking about the doors.
I don't understand the door. I don't understand, what are you doing with the door, the front door?
It's gonna be frosted.
A low E frosted slide.
That's correct. Low E frosted.
Double door. A single door is turning to a double.
I don't even know what that would look like. I mean, to me, it looks like it's just a white,
So this
I
will
just
almost
don't
look.
understand that.
It'll almost look like a green frosting.
That's a Photoshop, right?
Yeah, correct.
So it's not completely
Green?
accurate.
No, it's not totally accurate at all.
It'll be frosted, but it will have a slight green tint to the frosting.
I mean, that's not what it's showing here.
No, this is a Photoshop.
I don't know what it's, I mean,
Well, that's foolish.
okay, well, that's my.
Mock-up ready. All
There
right.
you go.
So I think we've gone around the table on this. Does anybody want to make a motion on this? We're going to have to make a decision here tonight. Whether we allow what has been proposed to continue forward or deny it and send it back, or proceed with direction, if you are amenable to changing that front window to a gray tint.
So that would mean approval of the doors as in the application?
Anybody have any comments. I mean, the doors are gonna have a frost to them. It's not going to show that green.
I agree. I don't think it's gonna read through.
I'm not so concerned with the doors.
And they far back in.
Yeah, it's back in, it's shaded, there's a cover that's gonna help with the reflection. It's really that front window that's very prominent from the street.
I think just because it's not noted in the staff report, they didn't realize it was frosted. It might be worthwhile to put that in your motion, that it's frosted as a condition.
So whoever makes a motion needs to qualify that the front door will be a frosted glass.
But just to circle back, so the window right now is visible from the street. The one window that we're talking about, it's into a garage where, yes, somebody's worked there. That was a studio space, but the light was not on for during the day. Or at usually garage lights, garage windows are just dark. You know, I have a window on the side of my garage. It has very little tint to it, but because it's a garage, you can't really see into it because it's just dark. And that window right now in that picture looked very dark gray to it. So I guess my question is, how active is the garage planning to be used to where the window would, the tint or the low E or the visibility through the window would really come into play?
That's a great question. It's about the future use. And I've had conversations with the foundation board, and it's still early. You know, he only passed about a year and a half ago, so there's a lot to do. So there's consideration, also in his will, that some of his properties might be used as artisan residencies. That's part of why we don't want to change the residential use just yet, because we might find ourselves changing it back. And that could be a problem for us to be doing waffling. So I was told that, you know, we should be considering this for the future possibility of artists potentially working in that space as Mr. Singer worked in that space, including leaving the press there. There's a print press there kind of for his prints. And so that's what I'm doing, you know, because that's what has been discussed by the board. And so that, to answer your question, the plan is to have artwork in there, you know, and when we're doing this as a foundation, it's very different than as an individual artist, Mr. Singer, doing what he feels like. It's a different animal in terms of how we protect artwork. Like previously, he didn't have to insure his work. I have to insure his work to the T. So it's a very different animal, I guess is what I'm saying. And because of that, we need to make sure that work is protected, including work that will be in that space temporarily because we're moving it around, so on and so forth, but also future artists that might be working in that space and protecting their work.
And there's no window treatment on the interior of that window right now?
No, I mean, the natural light is a big part of the allure of this space as a working space. I mean, if you look at the plans from what was there originally and how he kind of blew out the building, which was approved by this board then, to create like a ton of natural space. We barely turn on a light bulb in this building during the day, even with all the shade. And that's, for me, that's the history of this space, is that it's a building surrounded by natural light. There are no window coverings, there are no shades, there are no nothing. And that's part of what he created. Right. And that's true in all of his buildings, by the way. There's not a single curtain or shade in any Michael Singer building.
Right, but so where my point being that if the low E glass is needed for protection of the artwork, would understanding that garage space functioning as a studio and functioning as storage come gallery space will not be utilized 24 hours a day or only during daylight, where, you know, so when it is not being utilized, would a protective interior window covering be suitable? Should a low E not be approved, would that a protective E or a protective window covering on the interior that is able to be raised and lowered at the will of whoever's in there be something that would still protect the artwork and still give the light that's needed on a kind of an on-demand basis.
I totally get what you're saying, and as from a practical, functional standpoint, yes. But you know, again, the future use. Let's say in the future, we have 10 of his pieces hanging in the space, and it is it's changed to commercial in the future, and people can move through that space. Michael would want that to be presented with all the natural light that we could, and that's really the crux of the issue. He would not want it to be a shade to come down that would then block the natural light presenting his work. So that's what I'm left with, because, you know, like I said, I worked with him for 20 years. I know exactly how he presented his work. And so from a practical standpoint, you know, sure, we close the shade and no one's in there or whatever, but from a presentation standpoint and so on a regular basis, should this be a place people can enter, we're not going to go run and open the shade. You know what I'm saying? That's going to be open, and the natural light's going to be there, and people can come and go, and so on and so forth. I don't know what the future holds, but that's the thought and the intent, and to get to your point of what you're asking. So, yeah.
All right.
Thank you, though. I appreciate that.
Anybody?
One last comment, sorry, is I don't like approving things or reviewing things after the fact. It really, you know, as a board, I hate it when people come in and say, oh, it's already been installed, please approve it, or it's already been ordered, please approve it, because I feel like that puts pressure on us that we shouldn't have to deal with. You know, and just have to say that, because I'm looking at this thinking, had this come to us before the window order was made, before we went forward with it, I don't know that I would be in favor of having windows where 3 of the windows are different glass compositions than the rest, where we've got low E on some of the windows and clear glass on some of the other windows, because just within itself, the house doesn't match. You know, forget about what does it do with the rest of the neighborhood and the historic character. It's just, I don't think we as a board would approve that. We would say, no, this doesn't make sense that you've got windows on one part of the house that are different glass types than the other side of the house, other than the front door. So just wanted to make that point.
I do want to say, I know these are just ordered, they're not installed, so it's not like it's a subject of code enforcement or anything like that, but like as a negative or a positive, it shouldn't be used that it's been ordered or that it's been installed or any of those things. You should be basically analyzing it how you would if they came to you with no order in place, so just want to throw that out there.
Well, I have an idea. I mean, a suggestion. Can we actually look at the window there and decide, I mean, somebody from the staff or you, if it's really that noticeable? The reason I'm saying, because sometimes in this, especially in this environment, the windows do reflect a lot of the greenery around, you know? And I don't know what type of glass actually this particular window has. I agree with you. Sometimes it has like all kind of iridescent purple reflections. Looks like an art show, you know? It's not really a flat glass. But maybe, I don't know, would that matter? I mean, can you put as a condition that maybe they can actually, you guys can
I
make
would
a
feel more
decision?
comfortable if the board made a decision with what they want to move forward with.
Okay.
Mainly and respectfully, because we have studied some of these instances where we're given that authority, right, to make a call, and then it's installed and it doesn't actually look like what we expected it to look like, and then what are we bringing them back to the board? So
Yeah, it's a risk.
Let's make a motion.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I will make a motion to approve certificate of appropriateness HP-00030-2025 for the property located at 321 Northwest First Avenue, Old School Square Historic District, by finding that the request and the approval thereof is consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets the criteria set forth in the land development regulations, subject to the following conditions: that window 13 will be a gray tint, and that the clear, and that the front door window 2 will be approved as noted.
Okay. Any second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
And as noted, meaning frosted glass.
Yes.
Correct. Okay.
Frosted glass, yes.
So this is approving the low E window.
On the door.
On the door.
Not on window 13.
Not on window 13, which will have to be modified to be either clear or gray tint. Okay, we'll take the roll.
Peter Dwyer,
Yes.
Chris Cabezas,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Vlad Dimitrescu,
Yes.
Carol Perez,
Yes.
Benjamin Baffer,
Yes.
John Miller.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, split the baby.
A lot of people ask for forgiveness in front of us. It happens all the time.
All right, now we go on to previously item A, which is now item C. Certificate of Appropriateness 2023 143 for 139 and 1 to 143 Southeast 7th Avenue. Is there any ex parte communications on this item?
No. No.
I have been to the site. It's been a couple of years.
Yes, we did receive several emails from neighboring residents.
Yes.
And I haven't seen anything other than those. So,
Did everybody receive the email? That's
Yes.
Mr. Miller, Cabezas, everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
okay.
So thank you for introducing the file into the record, 2023-143 for 139 to 143 Southeast 7th Avenue. The applicant agent, Mr. Simeon Krivliov. I'm sorry, I do this every time.
Not a problem.
Architect for the project is here and will present. And could you remind me, is it 15 or 20 minutes?
15
It's
minutes.
15 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I'll do my best. I'll speed through it. Thank you very much. My name is Simeon Kirilov with Steve Siebert Architecture here on behalf of ownership. We are at 1010 Gateway Boulevard. This is regarding the 139-142 Southeast 7th Avenue in the Marina District. In terms of the history of the property, I believe it may have come before you at one point with one of the original developers. I'm not sure if it made it to the board or if just the historical board reviewed it, but I think there was a COA application at one time. It didn't go through. The new owner purchased it. And unfortunately, it was not in the greatest condition because it was about halfway through renovations. I'm not sure exactly what was done before the new owner took over. But the new owner now wants to fix it up, clean up the property, bring it back to how it originally was, and basically restore it as much as possible with a few minor modifications, which I'm going to go over right now. So here is the existing property. It is made up of 4 houses. 2 of those houses have 2 units in it. The 2-story has a unit on the, actually right now the 2-story has 2 units on the ground floor, 1 unit on the above floor, and then the, how do I do? There we go, sorry. This one here, that has 2 units in it as well. The other buildings are single units and single-story buildings, and there is currently an existing what was a 1-car garage, but at some point it was converted into a storage unit. And we are requesting to demolish that particular unit. It technically already is demolished, and I'll go over that on the reason why it was. So this is the site plan that we're proposing. All of the units are going to remain exactly where they are, so all of the units will stay. The parking lot along the front will stay. We're going to redo the interior with a new paver, kind of make it look like 4 individual houses within a cluster. And then back here was that old garage, and we're proposing to demo that garage. Technically, the garage is already demolished. It's not there. The current owners did not demolish it on their own. It fell apart. The original structure was neglected for many years, and unfortunately, it did fall over at some point, so ownership had to come in and clean it up, and they took it all away. It was made from bricks. None of them are reinforced. There was no steel in it. The roof was made out of just 2x6s, and just over the years, the 2x6s rotted away, fell down, and the building itself collapsed, and current ownership took it away, so we have to go in for a after-the-fact demolition permit on this case. But even if the building was there, we're going to request to remove it. All the other buildings, we're not really requesting any major demo other than a couple of minor renovations. This building here, we're just requesting to enclose a current concrete patio. It's open. We're proposing to do this little addition back here and enclose the patio. So this room used to be part of an open patio, which we're enclosing, and then we're adding a new little bathroom off to the side, which is not there. And in this building, we're just proposing to extend the second floor, but the footprint will stay the same. No changes for this building and no changes for the other building. All of those, the footprints are going to remain as is and just be rebuilt. So here's the floor plan of what we're calling building 1. So building number 1 is this guy over here. So for building number 1, really, the major additions is right now there's an open patio back here. We're planning on squaring it off to add additional square footage. This is the original front porch. We're planning on expanding on that area, a portion of that porch, and expanding the back half of the building. So this is one of the buildings that has the majority of the renovations on it. So here is the floor plan of building 2, which is the 2-story. So this is the existing. So right now this is considered its own independent unit, which we're going to get rid of and convert it all to a single unit. And then on the second floor, this is the current second floor right over here. We're proposing to add an addition back here to just make that unit a little bit taller. This addition will still stay within the footprint of the original building, so it's not going to expand beyond the original footprint. Right now, this area here where we're putting this addition, which is back here, is a flat roof. So right now it's just a flat roof area. There's nothing above it. This is building number 3. This we're really just doing an interior renovation. We're not changing. We are changing out the doors and windows, but we're not changing any of the openings or locations of the openings. This building is actually in pretty decent condition. We're just going to renovate it and clean it up. And then this is building number 4, which is the one at the front. Again, we're really not doing any additions on this particular building. We're just renovating the building itself, but for the most part, the building is staying as it is floor plan wise. So this is going back to building 1 on the elevations. As you can see, one of the major items that we're coming before the board to request is to raise the buildings. The buildings are currently, I believe, at around 4 feet, and FEMA is at 8 feet. So they're very, very below the flood zone. So they are going to have to be raised nearly 3.5 feet, which is one of the biggest things that we're here for. So the buildings are going to have to be raised to meet current FEMA and, of course, to protect the buildings. So as you can see on this case, it's going from this to this. It's going to be raised. Same thing with the 2-story. The 2-story is going to be raised as well, again, so the finished floor can meet the FEMA requirements. Lifting this one's going to be a little bit tricky. And if you guys have any questions, I'm here to answer if you guys read the reports. But one of the issues with this building is that it's not an individual building, if you will. It was originally a shed, and then eventually they did an addition down here, and then eventually they put the second floor. So it's a building that was kind of hodgepodge together within the years. So lifting it will be tricky. On this case, what we're proposing is, since the first floor is concrete block, only at this portion, this is all wood. The wood portion will be lifted from the base. However, for the 2-story portion, we're going to have to lift the second floor, not the first floor, and we're going to have to expand the concrete block on the first floor just to make sure that the building is stable, because we're worried if we lift it from its base, since the concrete block walls are only on 3 sides, not all 4, it could cause a stability issue. So we're proposing to raise the second floor on this and building up the first floor rather than raising the entire first floor and doing a foundation, which is how you would normally do it and how we would do it on the other remaining buildings. Building number 3, we are not lifting that building. That is a concrete building that sits on a monolithic slab. So this building is the only one that we're requesting to leave as is, and it also makes as a good ADA unit for, especially now that this is going to be a complex, it's going to be an accessible unit, and we're going to keep it at the level that it is. And then building 4, same thing, we're going to raise the building, and this one, just like building 1, we're raising it from its base, so it's a standard lift, rebuilding the foundation, and yes, the foundations will be stem wall and concrete block, while the rest of it will be the existing wood framed walls. Here is a couple of renderings of what it's going to look like. And that's it, presentation. Just really quick, I want to go over the variances because that is one of the key items. Oops. So we are requesting 6 variances, well, not necessarily variances, I think it's 3 variances, an internal adjustment, 2 waivers, and a demolition permit. So one of the waivers is regarding building number 2. So building number 2 sits 9'3" from the existing property line. As a commercial property, it requires a 15-foot setback. So the renovations that we're proposing from this building is going to go beyond that 15 feet. So we're requesting to keep the existing 9'3" setback. I know there was some concerns from neighbors to not go beyond what the current setbacks were. And I just want to make it clear, we are not going beyond what's actually there. So even though we're going in for a variance to go beyond the 15 feet, we're really sticking with the existing 9'3" setback, as the building already sits at 9'3". So we're not going to go beyond the 9'3" mark or beyond the footprint of the existing building. Same thing with variance number 2. With variance number 2, this little addition back here, it's the same case. We're sticking with the same setback that's already there. So even though we are requesting a waiver of the 15-foot setback, we are still keeping the setback of the existing building and the existing structure, and we're not going to go beyond the existing setback. The internal adjustment is, since we are enclosing this area, it's now getting close to the building. And again, we're not making that worse. The existing open porch is already at that distance, and we're just matching the original open porch with our addition for that building. Variance number 4, which is the 3rd variance, is to keep building number 3 at the existing height. So really the variance is to just leave the building as is and to not lift it. Waiver number 5, waiver number 5 is going back to the 2nd floor addition. Since this building is turned sideways and it faces internally, even though I consider this the front elevation of the property, since that's where the main entrances are, realistically this elevation is the front, which faces the street. Since we're doing an addition on that elevation, we're getting a waiver. We're requesting a waiver from the board to be allowed to do an addition that is on the front of that building. And as I mentioned before, even though it is on the front of the building, we are not going beyond the existing footprint. So that addition will stop right at this wall right here. So you still have this entire element that's still beyond that addition. So we're not really going in front of the building, which is part of the LDR requirements. And then finally, the number 7, which is the demolition. Again, we are requesting to demo the what was the existing single-story garage. At one point, it was used as a garage, but eventually it was converted into a storage space. And again, over the years, it collapsed and it fell apart. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff.
Hello, reminder, Michelle Hoyland, Principal Planner for the record. So 143 South Swinton is on the east side. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said 143 South Swinton. 139 to 143 Southeast 7th Avenue is on the south end of the Marina Historic District. on the east side of 7th Avenue. This request is a multi-family project that includes 2 lots with 4 structures and a 5th that is I'll explain a little more about later, on this property. So that it's multifamily, which in the planning and zoning realm, we look at this not as a standard COA. So many of the applications you see are single family, and it's a COA. This is a COA with a site plan approval. So it elevates almost to the review as a commercial building would be per our code. So that's why, unfortunately, it was somewhat of a lengthy staff report, along with the relief requests and all the citations for the city code. And just for our new board members, anytime you see bold in the code, that's a code citation, and non-bold is the staff analysis. So this is the property here, an aerial view that you can see the 4 structures. And then this is an older Google Street View of the property. The Marina Historic District has a very interesting background and history, which we've provided in the description of the staff report. I won't read the entirety of those paragraphs, just for the essence of time. But it's notably associated with the Blank family, with the Blank family nurseries. They were settlers to Delray Beach, original pioneers, referred to as the Michigan Connection because they hailed from Michigan. And they established this area for a business that they had with a tree nursery, which is why there is such a gorgeous established tree canopy in the Marina Historic District still to this day. And a lot of different types of species exist throughout the historic district as well. So of the 4 structures that are on the site, they were all predominantly built, original builds in the 1920s, with the exception of this duplex structure that you see on the right side of the screen. Important to note that Ken Jacobson was associated, he was the architect of this structure, and for those who don't know Mr. Jacobson, he was an architect who established here in Delray Beach an architectural firm, Jacobson Curry Architects, which he was the father-in-law to our esteemed architect Bob Curry. And he designed many buildings in the same time frame and era. We were seeing a lot of work from Roy Simon, Dick Hanna, a lot of work throughout this area. Ken Jacobson worked in Lake Ida a lot as well. So some of your Lake Ida homes, and this mid-century was kind of one of his specialties. So this is a very unique building. I almost wish that the south side was facing the north side, because it is really arguably the more interesting side of that mid-century building, but that's a duplex. The site contains today technically 7 units, which is non-conforming from the density perspective, which is units per acre. The request involves elimination of one of those units in one of the buildings and kind of combining the footprint or the floor plan to create 6 units. So it will continue to be non-conforming. It's a grandfathered situation with respect to density, and it's also non-conforming with respect to the parking spaces along the front, which is the west side, as they back out onto Southeast 7th Avenue. That historically has existed in that configuration for many years. Ironically, this property fell right on the edge of the Sanborn maps, those fire insurance rate maps that we use from the 20s, 40s, and 60s to see the footprints. So this property doesn't show up just because it was on the cut line. So these are, I'm going to go through a series of views of the property. Here you can see the only 2-story structure on the property, which is in the back corner. We'll be referring to these by their building numbers, buildings 1, 2, 3, and 4. So on the right is the 2-story structure that had multiple units. On the left is what was a smaller 1-story, also mid-century style structure. And what you can see on my note here is the slab, or the area where the garage once was. It was like a utilitarian accessory structure, and it had been demolished by the applicant largely because of a condition issue. So building 4 originally was a missionary structure when, mission revival structure when it was built in the 1920s. And we believe at the time that the mid-century duplex was constructed, that the introduction, based on permit records and things that we had access to, there was this introduction of this kind of funky mid-century porch, which would have occurred in the 1950s, and the back porch. So we can still see the scuppers. The rough texture of the stucco pattern exists around the non-primary elevations of that building, and we think it was when this was built, was really when that was introduced, potentially to create cohesiveness across the site. So this building exists literally in its original design, even down to the jalousie windows in the 1950s. This is the west view of that structure. Interesting piece, it's hard to see, but the wing wall that's dividing the two units in the back, and then they've got these really interesting mid-century style window pattern. This is the front porch of the building in the back corner, one of the smaller buildings on the site. You can see that the site really is in need of TLC. And these owners are envisioning bringing this property up to a much better standard for the neighborhood. So I may come back to that. We move in a counterclockwise direction when looking at building numbering. So southeast corner is building 1, building 2 is northeast, building 4 is northwest, building 3 is southwest. But remember, the lots are divided. They're going to be joined through the plat exemption process. That's an administrative level process that staff will handle. So here's our existing site plan. There are additions occurring to building 1. You can see here we try to illustrate this with the use of red whenever something is new or being removed, and the blue is typically the existing, with the exception of a new swimming pool, that swimming pool blue in the south east corner. The parking is being reconfigured to incorporate some level of landscaping buffer on either side of the parking tier. The waiver that's being sought is because the code technically says you have to have a 9-foot wide landscape island, and if they were to do that, they would lose yet another parking space. So they are already reducing the parking by 1, largely because of the introduction of a handicap parking space, where they have integrated the handicapped access panel to be the walkway up to the property. Here's that garage that was once there. There's a small picture of it in the corner. It had a man door, essentially, as a single pedestrian entry door, but at one point in time it did actually have, which we guess was probably carriage doors that opened on the front of it. Overlay plans are utilized to really show the board what's old, what's new, and all together on one plan. This is why there's hatching there. This is a rendering of the proposal with the proposed paint scheme incorporated. It is a very dark beige and brown trim style. And I'm going to move quickly through these because we can come back if you have questions. But this is really more of an interior detail where we're showing all of the existing and proposed plans from the architect for the footprint and the floor plans, first, second floor. So each of these buildings are coming through for modernization and upgrade. Building 1 is having additions added onto it, which is why there are these relief requests related to internal adjustment, which is the distance between buildings, and I'll cover that a little bit more in a few minutes. And then the setbacks on the south side. So the additions in this case look like original sides of the building are changing, but let's not forget this is the addition of, this is plus space, not changing existing space. So again, this is in the back corner. The proposal includes the alteration of some of the window openings and moving the window openings. This is we tend to see this in a lot of the applications. It's a tough ask when this happens because technically the Secretary of the Interior Standards talks about retaining the existing window openings, but a lot of times this is dictated by what's happening on the interior footprint of a structure. So this is what you're seeing is making windows longer, shifting them on the sides of the building. Building 2, this is our 2-story structure, does have a second floor addition, a new deck, which you can see in the back of the property. It's on the right of your screen, highlighted in a beige color, with a covered patio. They've had to reorient the stairs so that the stairs are pulled out of the setback because they didn't want to seek yet another relief request to continue with that condition. Here you can see in red on the left, that's the upper floor addition. So that's an expansion of to the west, which is really more of the almost front, even though the south feels like the front. So there's a secondary and subordinate waiver included with this as well. That's a visual compatibility standard requirement. And then you can see here, this is the one that involves that vertical relocation. So all of these structures are required, as they are in the Marina Historic District, to meet the FEMA finished floor elevation. Currently that's 8 plus 1 foot for the Florida Building Code, which means these buildings have to move from their existing grade to 9 feet. And that is resulting in 4 to 5 feet increase in the overall height of these buildings. That is the minimum required, so they are not going over the minimum required. But again, you've got alteration of the structure. I know we've had a lot of conversations with other applications on how to stabilize and make sure there's stability of these buildings, and you can inquire more with the applicant about that method. So here, this is the east or most rear part of this building with additional changes to the elevation that are occurring. The north, which would almost be an interior side, but somewhat feel like a rear of a building as well, with some alterations of the windows and spaces. You can see the difference from top to bottom. And then the west elevation. So this would be facing Southeast 7th Avenue, and the top of this building will peak over the 1-story that's in front of it and be somewhat visible from the street. Building 3 is largely untouched. The most of the proposed changes here are footprint layout, floor plan layout on the interior, which the board doesn't really, or staff, have purview over. This is the existing non-change proposed north elevation. The main change here is windows, that they're coming in with single hung. We put this in, it's a kind of a neat drawing. The top drawing is pretty common when we see these historic drawings, where you see a building that is symmetrical fundamentally from front to back. So what the architect did is they drew what would be the front on the right side and the rear on the left side, but it's a mirror image. So you see he's labeled it north and south. It's kind of neat to see that. But that most interesting side of the building really is, I wish I had a better photo of it, but you can see it illustrated here on this drawing with these clear story type windows. And then the west elevation with new windows as well. In my opinion, I think one of the second most interesting structures on the property is the building in the northwest corner. We refer to this as building 4. This was what, in the staff report, we mentioned that this is having somewhat of an identity crisis because there's still evidence of that mission revival style with the stucco pattern, the scuppers, the dog ear parapet detailing, and the square nature of the building. But it has been altered, you can see, so that the front reads as mid-century, and ironically, it almost reads as a deco building as a result of that change. So the applicant is going to retain this building largely in its existing proposed appearance, with the exception of vertically elevating this as well. They could have come in to remove these mid-century elements and approach a restoration of this building to bring it back to mission. They are not proposing that, and they can leave these elements and it still is considered a contributing structure. So there are some minor elevation changes on the west, which involve primarily the window and the style of the door. This window here is becoming fixed. Did I hit my time? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna need more time. I'll move faster.
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay? Yeah, I'm so sorry. So obviously That's the architectural elevations. There's some rendered SketchUp style drawings in the plan set as well that the applicant provide us additional information here. You can kind of see aerial view of renderings, the color palette, the rendering of the color palette. And then these are here for informational purposes. Secretary of the Interior standards that we apply, which all 10 of these have to be met, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 9, and 10 are all applicable, and the review for that is in the staff report with the analysis. There's concern regarding the addition to building 2. This is the 2-story structure, as putting an addition on top of a historic contributing structure is really not necessarily the most recognized approach to additions. Putting an addition adjacent to a historic structure is the most appropriate method, and that's to ensure that the addition is minor in comparison, subordinate, and also that could be removed in the future, which is a standard noted here. The visual compatibility standards, we have them here if you want to look at them, but these standards generally talk about height, width, mass, scale, facade, openings, rhythm, material, color, texture, roof shape, direction of the front elevation, and other criteria for specifically additions to the buildings, and those are oftentimes the most important, which are additions shall be located to the rear or least public side of a building and be as inconspicuous as possible, and so on and so forth here with this section M. So we have done an analysis here in the color palette. While it's very interesting, typically this time frame, whether it was mid-century, Mission, Art Deco, whatever, might have been a more muted color palette, but might have included some pops of color. So think 1960s, you might have a beige building with an orange front door. So we are making some notes here that it might be helpful to apply some color to avoid washing out that defining characteristics of this building. There's also a note in the plan about this almost eyebrow feature that continues over. It's not correctly illustrated in the plan. That's an existing feature, and we believe the intent was to retain that feature. You can see it continues over the top of the windows, and it seems to be missing from some of the drawings. Demolition. So this was an after-the-fact demolition, so they did not come to the board to request demolition of this structure, and the standards and requirements for that are in your staff report, but here is what the board needs to consider when making an approval for demolition. Should the board want to get into the area of reconstruction or requiring something like that, or discussing it with the applicant, we've included these standards here and in the staff report as well as to how that happens. Historic reconstruction, you can recall we've had other applications where this has happened and the board has required a reconstruction as a treatment. Relocation criteria. So for those projects that have to go through a vertical elevation, there is a set of requirements, submittal application requirements that includes a report from a moving contractor. So this contractor is provided that information, is also in your backup of what the method is for vertical relocation, and the applicant explained that a little bit more in detail than I did. There's 3 variance requests: the north building 2, the south building 1, so the 2-story building number 2 and the southeast corner building 1 have variance requests to reduce the required 15-foot setback on the north and south side respectively, to allow for 9 foot 3 inches and 5 foot 9 inches on those structures. The other request is to allow the duplex to remain at its existing finished floor elevation rather than vertically elevating that building. The board has processed and approved some of those in the past. These are your variance findings, which are also in the staff report. Biggest one typically is, could the proposal be achieved, an expansion where modernization or improvement of the site, is it necessary? Is it necessary to have a non-conforming setback for the new addition, to maintain that, or in its configuration? So it's a literal interpretation of the code is really what we're looking at with these findings. So here is where the 9'3" setback is happening. Again, this is on top of the existing structure. So that 9'3" setback already exists in this configuration, and the building is going on top of it. And the requirements that we have to apply do require a new variance for that second floor space. Variance number 2, which is on the south building, again, bringing that setback down to 5'9". It would maintain an existing setback that's somewhat in that location already for a portion of the building for a small expansion west. So you can see where this red arrow is, the building is sitting at 5'9" there already. So the board will need to determine, is it appropriate in this case to be having a literal interpretation of the code and so on, other things in your staff report with findings. And then here is that finished floor elevation variance request. Again, you have to apply the variance findings. Would it help maintain, would any of these variance requests help to maintain the historic integrity of those structures? The waiver request for the terminal landscape islands, I think I already covered. I think you got that. Let me know if you have questions on that, but here are your waiver findings. It's again in your staff report. We're looking at adversely affecting neighboring area, or diminishing public services, creating an unsafe situation. Would you grant a waiver like this under similar circumstances for another property or property owner? This is a view of that landscape area, so you're kind of looking down on it. So this image is here should you wish to discuss it further. Waiver 2 is for secondary and subordinate. This is to allow the addition to be not secondary and subordinate to the existing massing of the existing structure, and for the fact that that addition is being built on top of an existing one-story portion of the building. Here it is circled in red on the picture. You can see circled in red as well. So it will essentially be an expansion west of the second floor over top of the existing one-story. The internal adjustment, so this is to allow a reduction in the distance required between buildings. These are applied when you have multifamily or commercial buildings on a site. And you can see here that they do not meet the required 16'3" that should be set here. And they're asking for 7'10" spacing. This is a streetscape view of the street. So immediately to the north is a multifamily piece of the Marina Townhomes project, which technically is on Marine Way. So there's one unit that comes, west of that development onto Southeast 7th Avenue, almost with its front facing there, and that is the immediate north. And then to the south is a one-story structure. Again, the rendering is a reminder. And then our findings. So I'm going to move through this quickly. The COA findings that are applicable in the report, the site plan findings, these are here should you wish to refer back to them. The architectural elevation findings, and then as I noted, commercial and multifamily we review as a full site plan application, which includes performance standards. So we have to review and make sure they meet traffic, the concurrency requirements for streets, traffic, drainage, solid waste. And then there's a few site plan technical items. Just as a reminder, these are not, the board cannot edit these. These have to be met with the resubmittal. Should the project get approved for certified plans, these things need to be addressed. And these are things that sometimes would be TAC comments, but we don't want to hold the project from going to the board, and we feel like they can be addressed at the time of certification. Sorry, I went over, but that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any members of the public would like to comment on this item, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. I'm Grant Pottist. I actually am on the Marina Bay board, homeowners board. And just to correct the record, 142 is 2 units, not 1. And I actually live at 140 Marine Way, kitty corner behind the lot. If you could put the pictures back up, the ones you put up that you took recently, not from Google, please. My wife and I went over and walked this the last few days and took a lot of pictures. I'd invite all of you before you approve this to go over and check and look at the site. This is completely dilapidated and the entire thing needs to be torn down. The reason the garage is actually caved in and done that is because that's indicative of all the structures. This proposal is basically new construction, and you're actually not even conforming with FEMA, and we have massive flooding in the area that's been going on with the king tides and with all the issues we have over there. And you would leave one of the units down at flood level. The biggest issue I have with this is safety. Your association or whoever your prior or people have approved the lots on the corner of First and Second on Marine Way, and there hasn't been sidewalks put in. And there's going to be no sidewalk put in here, and this is a walking area. I have a 7-year-old, and I live there full time now. This is no longer just a snowbird, half-year community any longer. And the work that was done on one of the corner units on the corner of Second and Marine Way was an absolute danger zone eyesore. It's a miracle somebody didn't get hurt there. If I was as a city and the board, I'd be incredibly concerned about the liability that you guys are assuming by letting something like that take place. It was unbelievably unsafe. The density is a huge issue. These units, if you walk the units, there's numbers on the doors. It looks like it was a hotel or some sort of apartment complex where people were renting it out. This, if you could go to the other slide. This slide, there hasn't been. I've lived there for almost 5 years. There's never been living in any of these buildings. There's no cars or anything in the front. This has completely been vacant, and it's rodents and everything else going on here. I encourage you guys to work with the owners of this property and with the district to tear this entire thing down and to beautify our neighborhood. I encourage you to actually abide by the setbacks, abide by FEMA, and do the things we're supposed to do and beautify this neighborhood and make this lot aesthetically pleasing and get rid of the multifamily density parking with no sidewalks. That's not what we need in this neighborhood. And that's what none of us is in the HOA there's 10 of us want, and none of the neighbors want this. This should have been torn down years ago, and somebody should be working with these people to actually build appropriate, like maybe 2 single families or whatever it is here, that actually fit into the neighborhood and have sidewalks in front, proper setbacks. It makes Delray a more beautiful place. It'll help our tax base. And we can't have the density and all the danger that this is going to attribute to the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Roger.
Hey, for the record, Roger Cope, Cope Architects Inc., 701 Southeast 1st Street, I think, in the Marina Historic District. I didn't want to say this, but I totally disagree with that gentleman's point of view. These are historic buildings, so they cannot be torn down. Maybe he doesn't know that. But the reason I want to come up and say something is to applaud the applicant, but point out something that hasn't been discussed in the presentation. Building number 2, which is the 2-story in the back on the northeast corner, its entire skin is being changed. Just want to point that out because the lower level exists as exposed concrete block. It's painted, but it was never had a stucco coat on it, and I think they're going to put a stucco finish on it, and maybe the architect can confirm that. And the upper level is board and batten wood, and they're going to change that to stucco. I'm in favor of those, but I just want to point that out so when you make some of your motions and approve of all this stuff, that you know they're changing that material, and I think they should be allowed to. And this is a multifamily district, so multifamily aspects of properties like this are what makes this neighborhood totally different than anybody else's. If it were a single-family residential neighborhood, we'd have to look at it in a totally different light. But it's RM. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Hello, I'm Kim Pottist. My husband Grant just spoke. Like he said, we live at 140 Marine Way. I would echo what he said in that the current photos that you are using are wildly outdated, and I would encourage you, I think someone mentioned they hadn't been by in a couple years, to visit not only this, but all of the homes and properties that are on your docket. It looks like I don't know how often you guys meet, but you had 3 tonight. Take a walk. It's right down the street. It would be really helpful for you to understand the current status of this property. It is a mess. Boarded up windows, broken windows, foliage as tall as I am, taller than our son. It shouldn't be left in that state. even if you are still debating what it's supposed to be done, the owner should still have a responsibility to keep it safe and beautiful for our neighborhood. That's not historic. To have boarded up windows, to have broken garbage, to have rats, it's gross. It is one of the most heavily walked streets, I would argue, in Delray. If you come by in the morning, everyone's doing their morning walks. It is dangerous for that regard, but it's also beautiful. I think on your historic website, you note that the Marine Way is one of the most walked neighborhoods. So please, in the interim, I would encourage you to do something, anything. It can't stay how it is.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, public comments are closed. Does the applicant have any rebuttal?
I just have one, just to go to Mr. Rogers' point. That is correct. The two-story building technically has 3 different finishes on it because it was 3 separate, or at least I think it was done at 3 separate times. So the one-story portion does have a stucco finish. Then they did an addition which had a stucco finish, a rough stucco finish, and then they came in, they built a concrete block wall around an original stucco structure, so it's actually double walled on the ground floor. The CMU wall was only on 3 sides, not on all 4, and it was just painted block. And then they put the second floor, which I wouldn't consider it a traditional batten board. It's really just plywood with a couple of nailers in between them. And we are requesting to make it all uniform and a stucco finish on it. But that is correct. We are planning to make that building completely uniform rather than keeping the original 3 finishes and doing a smooth stucco finish around the entire building. For the other ones, we're matching and patching the existing stucco textures.
Thank you. Staff?
Okay, I'll be quick with this rebuttal. So I recently learned I get 3 minutes. So there is a sidewalk proposed in front of the property on the west side, adjacent to the, or within the southeast 7th Avenue rights of way. So you can actually see it's indicated here on the survey, but it will be more defined as part of the project. And as far as tearing the whole site down, that would require demolition requests, public notice, just so you're aware. It's not something the board could deliberate on tonight. The applicant would have to make such an application. And then the condition of the property actually has been a bone of contention for some of the owners, maintenance concern and people being on the property. And so we have let the property owners know that, and I don't know if or what action they've taken for that. So thank you.
So has code enforcement been involved?
Not that I know of, but the reach out to the property owner occurred with us in writing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry, public comment is closed. But just so you're aware, we got an appraisal report in our staff report, which did show images of everything, and I agree with it is in very rough shape. But I think that's what we're here for tonight. So, anybody want to start on commentary, thoughts, concerns?
I have a quick question about the uses. So it was previously and the applicant or staff. So it was previously always multifamily.
Yes.
Whatever condos, it was just rent, or it was just
Apartments.
Apartments. Yeah. Okay. And that is the intention to keep it as apartments?
Yes, rentable units, they're not going to be for sale.
Okay. So that was my one. And then,
Can I ask, is it short term or long term?
That I don't know the answer to.
And then if there was no variance, so if the variance for the second floor addition wasn't granted, would that building still be able to move forward or in some way, shape, or form with the current second floor footprint?
I think so. Again, the second floor unit is extremely small, which is why we're requesting to expand it. I believe it is a 1-bedroom currently. Give me 1 second.
Your plans show it as a 2-bedroom.
I think
It's a small
It may have
two-bedroom.
been a 2-bedroom. Give me 1 second. I don't remember all these on the top of my head.
It is small.
Okay, yes, the original was a 2-bedroom, but the bedrooms were very small, so that's why we're requesting just to expand the units and make them a little more modern, a little more larger size than a very small 2-bedroom unit.
Okay. And then can we comment on the color palette? Okay.
Yeah.
So the color palette, just my opinion, sucks as proposed.
Where ownership is more than happy to change it.
It needs to be fitting with the district around it and the homes around it, but also something new and dynamic, and I think a little more vibrant than beige and brown and gray. So I would, obviously you can't do color selection right now and come in with a proposal, but I would, any approval that I would vote for would be conditioned on a much more vibrant color palette, in keeping with the city and current trends in paint and color.
And we're fine with that, and I believe color is administratively approved, so I can work with the ladies, and yes, that would not be a problem on us if you guys are not happy with the color
I think
scheme.
Michelle would like to clarify that.
Not all color is administratively approved.
Oh.
Our smell test is if a board member drives by and said, "Who the heck approved that?" So
Bright pink and purple, that's what we're proposing.
more muted color tones, neutrals, things like that can be admin approved, but like this, I could not admin approve. This would have to have come to the board.
Okay.
And the visual compatibility standard I think you're reaching for in this is the relationship of color, materials, texture, and color.
Yes.
So that is in the code, and that there is a requirement for visual compatibility of materials and colors used on the structure and subject historic district.
And to answer your question, yes, that can definitely be a condition for the board.
Thank you.
I have no further questions. Carol?
While you're standing there, Simeon, first of all, I want to thank you for your justification statement. It was all very clear, and it really went in every single point. You know, you were able to address each variance and waiver that you are asking for, and I really appreciate that. And I think you are sensitive to the site, and I'm glad nothing's really going outside of those footprints. So I think you've done a good job. So the eyebrow that's going across, what is it, building 4, are you going to add that back in?
No, we're going to leave it. The problem is our modeling software. It's good, but it's really difficult to model things 100%. But yeah, it is missing. We are going to put it all the way across.
Okay, because I definitely agreed with that. I mean, that's part of the beauty of that building. So I think that's good. And then to the color point, yeah, it looks a little bit more like Colorado than it does Delray. I think you need to dive into the Delray character on the color palette. And is there a fence going around the property?
There's a couple of existing fences that are noted on there. We're not proposing to put any fences because there is an existing a white aluminum fence along the north. There's a concrete fence along the east. And then I believe there was an existing privacy wood fence on the south side. And
Is that fence yours, or is that
no,
fence
I think
the site's?
I think all of them belong to the neighbors. I don't think any of those fences belong to us, if I
Okay, and
recall
the reason why I
correctly.
ask is because those patios there for the for building what is that, 3?
Yeah, so
Building
there's
3 is
Okay, I meant the eyebrow on building 4 then, but on building 3, they have the patios very close to the property line. I believe that's an existing condition.
Oh yes, those patios on building 3 are existing.
They are existing. I think if people were to use those patios, you know, a 6-foot high fence would be appropriate there.
There
And
is.
That's why I was wondering if there was something there for
Yeah,
those.
there is an existing privacy fence there, and I believe that belongs to the neighbor.
All right, well, I'm
and
glad
just a matter of, if I may make a note, is that okay about the fence?
Yes.
So there is a 6-foot high wood privacy fence and hedge on the south, as Mr. you say your last name, please?
Kirilov.
Kirilov. 4-foot high CMU wall in the east, and then the aluminum rail fence that's actually part of the Marina Townhome project on the north. And one that we forgot to mention is a new 4-foot high privacy fence is occurring in front of the parking spaces. There'll be hedges and then fence, so that the property will be fully enclosed. That's required because there's a pool happening on the site too.
Yeah, so that would have to be a 4-foot high.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is correct. There is going to be a 4-foot high fence along the front with a hedge.
Yeah, and then just to touch on the landscape in the parking lot, I think that I know you've reduced the spaces by one. I think the spaces that you've got for the landscape is fine. You've also provided the trees in those islands.
Yes.
So you've made the situation better than it was before. So that's all I got to say. I'm in favor.
Thanks.
Except for the colors.
Vlad?
Yeah, I don't know about the colors. It's true, the same. I have the same comment. I don't know if that means that they have to come back in front of us or what.
It depends. Will be a game time decision when they bring it in, and whether or not we think we could admin approve it or if it has to come back. But don't forget, this is going to take time. So it's not like they're running to get a permit tomorrow. He still has to go to 100% construction drawings. I'm sure he's only at 30%. So there's time.
Right. Okay. No, I just didn't know if this is how important that decision is. But
it could potentially be the board if it's maybe something that we wouldn't feel comfortable approving administratively.
I understand that. I have a general question. Why did you have to raise the other buildings up?
Because
and you
the
left
other
one
building,
down.
the other buildings sit at they're around 4.5. I think one of them's a little under 5 feet, so they're very low and they have to be raised to meet the FEMA requirements.
But one of them doesn't. So
one of them that's the 1950s building, and technically we can raise it, but because it's a concrete block building with a monolithic foundation, and then it's got a lot of more intricate details than the other one. If we were to lift it, it would cause a little more damage than the other ones, which are just wood and standard framing. We didn't want to damage some of the details on there, so we felt it would be a little difficult to lift, so we're requesting to keep it. And also, as rentable units, it does allow for an ADA space, or else we would have to have about a 20-foot ramp just so we can hit the floor. So that's one of the reasons. It was multiple reasons on why we decided to keep that one there. Also, out of all of the buildings, that one is in one that was in much better condition. So we preferred not to touch it.
Vlad.
It's just unusual.
Mr. Dumitrescu, may I address your FEMA question?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So they are required to elevate it.
Right.
It's all 4 of them, the whole thing. And even in the situation where air conditioning units go in, those also have to be up high. So they're going to have to accommodate, the AC units for the other buildings. But this one, the request for the variance would be to leave it where it's at. And just as a matter of note, the city attorney's office, the chief building official, and myself have reviewed the process for this. And FEMA allows for the relief mechanism. It's up to the individual jurisdictions how they want to handle it. So our code says it's a variance, but some other cities keep a list where they allow that relief because of the historic integrity. So in this case, a variance does have to have action by the board to leave that building where it's at, which is allowed because it's a contributing historic structure and it's in the spirit of preserving that historic integrity. Thanks.
I'm sorry, and which one are the contributing ones?
They all are.
All are.
I thought that only 4? There was the 4.
They all are.
There were 5.
There were 5.
The garage
with
was
the
the 5.
garage, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. No, I missed that. I thought. Okay. Is it any? I mean, I understand there was a reason for the building 2. That's the one in the northeast corner, right? Yeah. The stairs, or did you try that? I understand there's a restriction. You didn't try to put it towards the back. You tried to put. It's very predominant, that new stair in the middle of the courtyard.
Yeah.
It's not ideal. It could have. I don't know if you could have handled it a little better.
We looked at it with the structural engineer. There's just no way to keep that existing stairs because that building is going up another 4.5 feet, we can't keep that existing stairs. It's a concrete stairs, it would have to be repoured, which is why it became new, and because it was new, we had to take it out of the setback.
No, okay. So you took it out, okay.
Yeah.
Was encroaching the setback.
Yes.
And if they touched it, they'd have to get another variance.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Actually, two.
Okay.
One for the setback and
Mhm.
one because they exceed the height of the stairs within the setback. So there's actually two reliefs there.
It's a little, it doesn't fit with anything. It's kind of not a very nice feature to look at. And it becomes a center point almost to the courtyard. But, I mean, I'm not gonna oppose the building because of that. How important do you think are those issues that the addition on the second floor is not separated from the existing? Do they have to actually do something forcefully, change the footprint a little bit, just enough to change the stucco texture, or it's not that important?
I mean,
at that point,
this is
it's
why it's at the board, right? If this were, there's no admin level for that. Even if there weren't a variance, it would still have to come to the board. So that's a variety of concerns in the additions section. But the biggest concern was that secondary and subordinate. As far as, the differentiation of an addition from
Right.
old to new, the nuance we've talked about before is picked up by the trained eye.
Right.
We try to respect the design professional and that it's their
Right.
design and not tell them how to do the design as staff, but we rely upon the board for your feedback as to whether or not you feel like it meets the requirements.
Actually, it actually helps the building. It's gonna look a little more complete, more finished, not so. I mean, it's just a little stronger than it was, so it's not really bad. The stair, I'm not too happy, but the building is okay. All right, well,
Anything else?
nope.
Okay. Ben, do you have any comments?
So, Vlad, a couple of your comments on the building that doesn't get lifted. We don't have to, I think, worry here because when they go through permitting, they'll probably require some flood proofing and flood
Yeah,
barriers
something.
and panels and those types of things. I think that'll get taken care of when they get good. No.
They're gonna have to mitigate that somehow.
So what happens when it goes to permit is FEMA does audits on all of the ones that are in the flood zones, and when there's one that has a variance, they look at it more closely. But when you grant the variance, you grant the variance. They don't have to meet any of the flood requirements, the flood proofing or the flood resiliency requirements. If it were a garage, we would encourage them to put flood vents in just to protect what's in the garage. But you can't really have, you aren't required to have those once you grant the variance for that structure. They just get to leave it.
So you may not be required, but you might want to consider flood proofing and making that building flood resistant. And I don't know whether we comment on that or not. I'm just telling you as a design professional, you might want to consider that. And then with respect to the second floor and the subordinate and some kind of cleavage to make it look like it's the addition, I have seen. I'll get scolded for designing from the dais, but I have seen where, like on a second floor addition, within the stucco, you'll make it look like a shiplap, or you'll make it look like a board and batten or something within your stucco pattern to kind of give that fenestration. So you've got a little bit of differentiation, which is something that you might consider coming back, but. Just overall.
Just for your reference, I actually think that's an okay comment. You're allowed to give ideas and comment on different types of ways that you could do it. It's when you're actually telling him exactly how to do it, that becomes an issue, or conditioning a project on doing it in a certain way. So that was okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. But just overall, I mean, I'm really, really happy to see that there's somebody that is coming in and restoring these buildings, because to the neighbors' comments, I've been by this place and we're really, really close to losing all of them. I mean, and so to have somebody come in and rebuild this, I'm just really, really, really excited as a preservationist to see this happening.
Gentlemen, I'll go. Yeah, overall, I'm I'm very happy with the project. I think you're doing the right thing to keep this property, bring it back to a usable level, and it seems to be done in a good way. Okay, so I agree with the color. That definitely needs to be looked at. I would have liked to have seen that second story addition for it to have remained with the 15-foot setback, because I think now that you're adding that chunk, it does affect the neighbors within the setback. And I did see that that's basically just a closet space in that master, or in that bedroom. I think that was something that maybe you wouldn't have had to have needed the variance if that second level was just pushed back at the setback. I'm not so concerned with the other building where it's just that little corner piece. I think you said it was a bathroom.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's on the first floor.
Ground floor.
Yeah. This is the second floor, which the neighbors have a little bit more of a view of that space. So I would have preferred to have seen that. And the parking. Carol made a good point. You took out a spot. You added those islands on the side with the trees, which is a great addition to greening up the space. But it is still a big parking lot, and I think an idea that I would have liked to have seen is maybe if you made those end spaces a little smaller, you could have added maybe a landscape area to break up all of that parking spot and added a tree somewhere to just green it up, add more shade. It is a big just concrete or asphalt space. So, but there is a sidewalk remaining, I do see. So
Yes.
that's nice. It's behind the parking space.
Yeah,
So there's no cut from that. We are looking at the landscape in this too, so we can make comments regarding the landscape.
You
Is that
can.
correct? I do like the meandering paths that are through the complex. I think that adds a little bit of looseness and a little bit of interest. But in looking at the plant palette, I don't see many native shrubs, and I also see that all the trees were owner removed, and I don't know what that means when I look at the tree disposition plan. If that was done, why that was done, before any permit was given. When you look at the old pictures with the sable palms in front, that gave such character to the units.
Yeah.
They feel historic almost. That sable palm is our state tree. Those seem to have been removed for some reason, and there's no sables being brought back. A lot of the plant material being brought back is non-native, and I just feel like with a historic property, native plants just go better. I would like to see more native plants in this palette. I know Michelle said we're only at 30% CDs, so I think the landscape can be looked at again.
Okay.
I would like to see, more natives. I would love to see these sables brought back that were removed, maybe without a permit, maybe, by mistake. I don't know why. But overall, I do like the lushness. I do like the meandering path. Those are just some minor comments on the landscape portion. But overall, those few items, I don't know if that's a condition to be adding if we want to go that route. I'd like to hear what the other board members think about that.
For which were the conditions? I'm sorry.
More native planting.
Okay. I'm okay if that does end up being a condition.
In particular, sable palms and more native shrubs.
And just to answer your question on the landscaping, the current owners purchased this from a previous developer, and the previous developer did start working on the property. I don't know if they got a permit for that or not, but the original developer did start working on this property. They gutted all of those units, so when the current owner purchased it, none of the units were rented. So work was already started by the previous developer, and a lot of the trees were taken down at that time.
When was that? What do you think?
They purchased this in 2022, I believe. And like I said, I thought a COA application did go in at one point by the previous developer, but I don't know how far it got.
I think it was window permits, but there were like pre-apps happening.
Okay.
I don't think that he ever asked. He was a developer architect, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure. All I know is when the owners purchased this property and I walked it for the few days after they bought it. All of them, all the units were gutted. A lot of the landscape was gone. So someone started doing all the work.
And we did site visit the site, so we saw that condition right when they had purchased.
Yeah.
And we did COVID site visit videos.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Yeah,
was
that's right.
what we were doing
Yeah.
because it was in the height of COVID. So we did see a lot of that condition and we were getting complaints on this before these
Yeah.
owners purchased. So it's a long time coming.
Can I bring up something about the landscape plan too? It's also missing native and drought tolerant calculations. So, maybe that would take care of some of these things too.
Okay.
But yeah,
Got it.
definitely.
Yeah, it might meet the bare minimum native, but I'd like to see more. If we can review landscape on the dais here, that I would like to be over the minimum.
Yeah, I think we did.
I think to the same qualifications as like you can't design the building from the dais, you also can't design the landscape from the dais, but you can make recommendations you can make determinations whether it doesn't meet the land development regulations and the design guidelines, and if there are points that can be stated to change or make adjustments based on that,
Are we reviewing this because it's commercial and not, so if it's single family, we don't review the landscape plan?
You have
Correct.
full purview to review the landscape, and mind you, it's been through review with our senior landscape planner and determined to be board ready, meet the requirements to come forward. But certainly, if the approach is coming from the aspect of compatibility with the historic district, then you get to say that rather than saying, I'd like to see more native. If it meets the minimum requirements of code, they don't technically, as Kelly's stating, have to do that. But if you're saying it from a perspective of what's appropriate for the architectural style, the neighborhood, the character, those are the things that you have the purview over from a code perspective. So I think you just got to frame it, right? And that you're saying it in the way you intend.
The latter.
Right. If you don't
Yeah.
think it's meeting the design guidelines, and
Yes.
then you can make those.
I think I made that point, like the sable palms added to the historic nature, and I think
You
native
did.
plants also do that.
Well, they're also missing a calculation, so we don't really know.
You
but
do get to say that too, yeah.
There is a code
Yeah,
requirement.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I also would like to know if the trees were removed without the permit, and if there, are any extra mitigation needed because of that. I don't know, but maybe that could be looked at.
We could include that to look at. I don't recall if they received permits for this or if it was a result of a storm or what the why is. But if the owner's purchased in that condition it's in, and there was a code enforcement violation that would have transferred to them, then they would be responsible for that. So I'm not really sure how that shakes out. We'll have to see.
Looks like, according to Pop anyway, this was under same ownership since the early 70s till 2020. And then it sold again from 2020 to 2024, or 2022 it flipped.
Yeah.
So somebody had it for a couple of years there.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any?
I'll be real brief. Very ambitious project. And I'm surprised to see it coming forward, but it's a great opportunity to save 4 structures, and I'm definitely in support of it. I think that the applicant has strived to meet the intent of the LDRs. There are some little waivers and variances required, but I'm in support of it, and I think it's be a nice addition to the neighborhood.
I do have a question. Have you considered any type of screening or of the front? I've seen some examples of similar kind of cases in Second, where they build some kind of a privacy combination, pergolas or something like that, to give more privacy to and emphasize.
Yeah, we looked at it, but the problem is adding all of that stuff to buildings that it was not there, it wasn't appropriate, which is why we didn't go that route. Originally, we wanted to put a concrete block wall along the front, but again, the board brought up that it may not be appropriate, so I spoke with ownership, and that's why we changed it to a metal fence with a hedge, because that seemed a little more appropriate for a historical district. There's actually, you have a couple of properties along the Marina District, which are also little individual houses, and they all have a nice hedge. rather than a concrete block wall. So that's why originally we came in with something a little bit more different, more private, but we realized it's more appropriate to open it up and just do something smaller and more smaller scale, which is why we went with a 4 foot and a 4 foot metal fence and a hedge.
And I'm not sure I didn't see, there's lighting involved in this, site lighting?
Yes,
That perhaps.
There is site lighting. It's lights that are on the buildings themselves to help light up the property. There's no poles, if you will.
No poles and nothing to. I was just trying to find a way to accentuate the entrance for with landscape planning.
Landscape lighting.
There is landscape lighting.
Yeah. Oh, yes. There is landscape lighting.
Okay, lower lights.
And
Okay.
just to circle on that question you had about the front end screening, we did work with Simeon and the front area. So you can see there's like this, you see the parking, right? And right in front of the parking is a walkway that's kind of blue on here. And then it's green for the landscaping and then the metal fence. So when the first iteration came through, there was no sidewalk in front of the parking spaces. And that was a comment we had, that the sidewalk needed to be in the front so that pedestrians could safely traverse the property. And then there's a very narrow landscape area there that's, not going to be very thick, tall, meaningful landscaping because of its proximity to the buildings. But we have had that similar comment where they needed to have landscaping on that front. And the aligning the parking and access panel for the handicap ramp, the applicant also switched that to be central to the site, because originally the handicap space was on the south side, so it could entrance right into that unit. But we suggested and worked with them on an alternative, so that handicap access panel is leading right to the gate.
Right.
Simeon, these are pavers in the front? What are you doing? I forget.
For which ones? I'm sorry.
There's a gate there.
For the parking. Is it?
The parking is concrete, but everything else we want to do is pavers.
Yeah.
Could that be pavers as well?
Which one? The parking lot?
The divider.
Because it would I think it would beautify the front better than just plain concrete.
I don't know. There's a storm drain there. I'm not sure. I have to ask the civil engineer.
All right.
Because right now we are keeping the existing asphalt that's there. I mean, we're going to fix it up, but we are keeping the existing asphalt that's there.
Is that a condition we could ask for?
You're saying asphalt, not concrete?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's the parking lot is asphalt. Yes.
And it'll stay asphalt on this.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Other than
Pavers
the
would be much
sidewalk
better.
and the pavers.
So in the way that it would be stated is there are sections in the code that talk about driveway materials, and that those materials be historically accurate or characteristics of, which would include concrete or pavers, or so you could make a suggestion or attach some type of condition that they incorporate a more historically accurate driveway material, parking area material. You could say something like that.
Yeah.
Such
That makes
as,
sense.
and give options rather than saying it
but
has
if
to
you
be paver.
Saying it has to be pavers without something in the land development regulations saying specifically that, that would be an example of designing from the dais. But if you give them, we want it to be a more historically appropriate material, and using your architectural experience, they can make that determination, kind of thing.
All right. I just only have a couple of comments. As far as the second floor on building 2, I believe, I think that is appropriate. I think it actually balances the building, makes it more symmetrical, and matches the building 3 down there, or 4, whatever that is. And it's a minor adjustment there. I'm okay with raising the properties. I think it's obviously appropriate, and whoever lives in the one that's not, that's a roll of the dice. So, I completely understand for a historic property why that waiver exists. I mean, if it's concrete block on a slab, that's like jacking up a saltine cracker from one corner and trying to lift the whole thing evenly. It's just not going to work. The garage demo, we never really spoke about it, but it doesn't sound like anybody misses it. And, it didn't look like it was architecturally significant, at least in its current form. So obviously the property's been neglected. the fact that they're gonna take this on, like Pete said, this is ambitious. I'm okay with it. And as far as what the neighbor is concerned is about, you know, putting 2 houses up there, we're not here to make that determination or decide what we want there. We are here to look at what's in front of us and make that determination whether it's appropriate or not. So, is anybody ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Wait, may I say one thing?
Yes.
To your point of the driveway materials, at the top of page 7, which is a continuation of what's at the bottom of page 6, driveway type and design should convey the historic character of the district and the property. So if that was important to you, you could utilize wording like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think we're in agreement with that. I'd like to make a motion to approve level 3 site plan, certificate of appropriateness, relocation variance waivers, and internal adjustment 2023-164 for the property located at 139-143 Southeast 7th Avenue, Marina Historic District, by finding that the request and approval thereof is consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets the criteria set forth in the land development regulations, subject to the following conditions: that historically accurate materials will be used for the driveway and for the landscape design, notably historically accurate native plantings, shrubs, palms, and trees.
Colors.
And the colors will be altered to more historically accurate.
Anybody want a
Does that
second?
sound right?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Is that clear? We think?
Yeah, I have it as that that historically accurate materials be utilized for the driveway landscaping and color palette.
That works.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Peter Dwyer,
Yes.
Chris Cabezas,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Vlad Dimitrescu,
Yes.
Carol Perez,
Yes.
Benjamin Baffer,
Yes.
John Miller.
Yes. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, item number 10, legislative items. We have anything?
No.
Great. Reports and comments, 11, staff, you're up.
So our next meeting this is unusual, kind of pointed to you, Mr. Kasser, that the meeting is on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. Typically, they're the 1st Wednesday of the month. So there was a scheduling conflict that occurred for our first meeting, which is why we are here on the 3rd Wednesday. Our next meeting, because of a holiday, is also on 3rd Wednesday, October 15th. So just please mark your calendars and make that notation. Okay, so our team has binders for both you and Mr. Baffer. Mr. Baffer is probably more of just a refresher because he's had one before.
I already have one.
And if you want to take the info in it and give it back, feel free, but I want you to take it. These are training manuals that we prepare for our new board members, and this has the requirements that we apply as a board and staff relating to the city's LDRs, the Secretary of the Interior standards, design guidelines, and then the other thing that I think you were searching for in discussion, not to revisit the previous project, but the flood adaptation guidelines that exist that were put out to be a companion document to the Secretary of the Interior standards, so they have approaches as to how people can make their properties more flood resilient, whether it's vertically elevating, which is usually the least desirable approach, but sometimes most necessary, to flood vents or abandoning the lowest floor. These things are there for you to look at. Kelly and I and our director have talked about an upcoming training that we'd like to try to make time and put together for the board. So we will be looking for available dates for that to do a training. But do we have the links to the training in here? Some of those others? There should be in your binder links to training opportunities where you can put a webinar on and listen to it in the background. Mr. Dumitrescu attended,
Yes.
and Mr. Chard, a former board member, attended one that was in person, right? But there are good resources online. So I think you guys did great. Obviously, you've done this before, Ben. So it's, you
Only
know,
4 years.
yeah, you've done it. So it's like riding a bike, right? But there are a lot of regulations that have to be applied, and when we're bringing it forward in a staff report, I know a staff report seems like it's a beast, but if you just kind of coast past the bold and read the non-bold sections, that's where the analysis is. So
But
you
the
know,
bold stuff is important.
the
too.
bold stuff is what what you can use, like historically appropriate materials, you know, things like that for a driveway. So you can always call staff. Everybody can call. You get an application ahead of time. You want to talk it over. You get these a week in advance. So just shoot us an email, and we can schedule a Teams call with you and go through the plans and be able to share them on screen. Any questions you might have. You have every right to talk to staff. Some applicants will also lobby to talk with you before their project occurs, and you are allowed to talk to them. You do have to disclose it as ex parte. You can visit the site, drive by the site, however you might want to get, you know, really familiar with the projects that are coming before you. But we're here as your resource as much as we are the resource to the applicants. So thank you for joining our board, and we appreciate the service of all of our board members. And that's, I think, all I have to share.
Any board members have any comments?
Sorry, I would just say, like, echo what Michelle said. If you guys ever have any questions, you always know you can reach out to our office. And, you know, if I'm not there to help you, there's always somebody there to help you. Most of the time I will be, but, you know, if you need anything, we're always here for you. You know, if you're like, I know this person, I'm the neighbor of this person, any of those things come up, I used to work for this person, I currently work for this person, please reach out. We'd rather, you know, do an ethics analysis before the night of the meeting. And we're always happy to do that. And then if you call early enough, we can also get an opinion for you, you know, so from like the Commission on Ethics. So we're here and always happy to help. So you can email or call.
Great. Yeah.
Thank
Welcome, gentlemen. I mean,
What's
jumped
your
in with both
backlog
feet,
look like?
so great.
What?
What's your backlog look like right now in staff?
So
You
you're
guys-
not, this is gonna be the last time you ask me that. No. It's hard to say, right? Because we went digital. So I'm sure you've heard about e-plans. Permitting has been on e-plans for a year and a half. But development applications went on e-plans this summer. So is Roger still here? He's still here. He knows it's a learning curve, and it's not just a learning curve for Roger and the applicants, but it is for us too. So we can see there's a queue of projects that are in the approach to submitting, but they haven't dropped in all the way yet because the applicant has to get the application sufficient. So it's hard to say.
So you see them in draft form?
So we can see that. I'll use, if it's okay, I'll use
Or
Roger as an
somebody started
example.
an application? Is that-
I can see that he started an application and that he's got the base information in, and once it's correct, we then say, okay, now upload your plans.
Okay.
So he's got to get it sufficient on document first, and then once that's ready, he can start putting plans in, and then we check that that's sufficient. And this is all really put in place like this because of the legislature pushing down certain deadlines. And we have to stick to that sufficiency deadline. It's a 10-day window, so we have to do it. So we can see that there's stuff sitting in that queue, getting ready to come in. As far as what's on for October, we have to kind of wait and see if the resubmittals are going to make it in time to be on the board. So I don't know. In some very rare instances, we cancel a board meeting. In fact, August was canceled, which was odd. Usually we're packed on the agenda and trying to negotiate timelines with applicants and asking, like, can you wait a month? So it is a busy board for only about 600 properties in the city. So, yeah.
All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
One of our past projects we looked at, there was the house that had they did the whole siding around the house, and then now they have to change the front to wood. What's the time frame for them to do that?
They're already in process.
Okay.
They might even have started work. Yeah, the permits are in.
What's usually the time frame for them to get that
It
done?
depends how fast they move. And I tell all of our applicants, can I have the staff report back, please? The one I just was using. I just want to draw your attention to the very last page in the staff reports. This is new addition since Mr. Baffer was on the board, but you can see there is this timeline that is in the back of the staff report. And this is showing when the application was submitted and when we provided comments to the applicant, and then you can see their resubmittal time and when we provided comments. So we have to abide by a 30-day review period, which we tend to try to hit 2 or 3 week reviews. So I tell my applicants, we tell our applicants, if you run, we'll run. So we want these things done, moved off our desk and moving to permit phase. So it's really hard for me to estimate that. It depends how fast they're gonna go. So I know the permit's in, I believe I saw it already with you guys. So.
Appendix B is also new in the reports? The
What?
one that says consistency, findings, and standards for site plan actions?
That's for the bigger projects. So when you see commercial or multifamily, those are the review for performance standards, concurrency, consistency. So those appendices appendices get added to the staff report. Those aren't required for COAs.
I see. Okay.
For single family, a duplex.
Yeah, so that last one, I mean, it started in 23, so it's 25, so
Yeah,
2.5 years almost.
There was quite a bit of time between the resubmittals where you also, once you're in process and we make comments, the applicant is required to respond in 60 days. If they're not going to hit the 60-day requirement to resubmit, they have to ask for an extension, which is what happened with this one. You could see, I think there were 7 submittals with this one.
We're at number 7.
A lot of repeat comments happening on this one and fine-tuning by ownership, I think. So they needed that time to really kind of figure it out and also fully bake the relocation plan.
All right, if nothing else, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Yep, you too. You do great.